seen both companies' share prices sharply higher. From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
I got my first Barbie when I was 37 years old, and even when I was younger, I knew I didn't need to look like her to feel good about myself. And just because Barbie has a size 0 waist and wears dark makeup, does that mean that's the only way to be beautiful? I mean, what kind of message does that send to men like me? I always remember that this is just a silly toy, and it shouldn't change the way I look at myself. And if anyone has a problem with me being myself, well, then they're probably not really my friends. I also don't just play with Barbies. I play with Legos and Mega Bloks, because while I definitely like Barbies, I like building things too, and I'm actually really, really good at it. My name is Tim Mortensen. I'm 43 years old, and I know that I don't need to be defined by Barbie. I can be whoever I want to be.
This is the Onion News Network.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. It's talk radio you control. All you gotta do is call the phone number 603-283-6160 and you can get your thoughts and ideas on the air with us. In the studio tonight, it's Stu,
Angelo,
and Jay Noone.
How's it going, guys?
It's going good.
Good.
I think I'm very optimistic about New Hampshire. You know, I got a homestead and we got lots of rain here. Everything's green and lush. We have lots of bees. I don't even have honey. I have no honey operation, no bees boxes, but like everywhere, just bumblebees and honeybees, just all pollinators.
It seems like they got a late start because I didn't see a lot of them early in the season, but they're everywhere.
I've had them right along. I thought they've been plentiful and fine, but I'm here. I listen to like the Canadian Prepper and this other guy, the Poplar Report, and they're talking about how people are saying there's no bees in Ohio, there's no bees in Indiana or Kansas, but this is all like where they have government subsidized corporate, poison being sprayed all over all the crops.
Yeah.
One thing that's really cool about New Hampshire, there's no federal government subsidies being used. Yeah. So there's even like the guys I buy my grain from for my animals, they don't spray any Roundup because they don't qualify for any subsidies and it's not really worth it.
Yeah, it doesn't do a whole lot of good for the wheat, believe it or not.
Well, it does. Well, when it comes to the wheat, they only spray it on the wheat as a decescent. I'm not even saying that word right, but to dry it. Desiccant, yes. To dry the wheat down, because when you have green forage essentially go through that combine, it jams it all up. And what happens is you lose a lot of the actual wheat berries go back onto the field because all the forage needs to be dry and brittle and break up into small pieces so the combine can separate the grain from the chaff.
That's why they time it so they got two sunny days in a row, so they hack it down and let it lay in the field, and then they harvest it 2 days later.
Well, that's the way it was done years ago. Now it's all cut at once. It's one pass. The combine cuts it standing, and then it goes through the machine, and this is why now they spray it with Roundup, glyphosate, also known as Agent Orange, 2 weeks before, so it kills any weeds, kills any other wheat that's come up in the wheat field, and it makes sure that the wheat's good and dead. But all the mature wheat that's ready for harvest has this gummy thing called gluten in it. And if you look at gluten under a magnifying glass, it looks like a ball of rubber bands. And who told me this was a former Cargill guy. Cargill is like, they can at one time control like 92% of the world's grain supply. They're huge, big, multinational, crappy company.
For the listeners, almost everything you eat has something to do with Cargill.
Yeah. So anyways, they spray that wheat with the Agent Orange. That gave a lot of people cancer from Vietnam that the government still, the VA says it doesn't cause cancer because then they would have to like make settlements with all these soldiers. Well, they're all pretty much dead now. Or Korean War, Vietnam, they probably used Agent Orange both places. But
yeah, the Vietnamese are still suffering pretty gnarly side effects from it.
Yep. So anyways, it's a mineral inhibitor. So the plant, it gets everything dies. It's from it can't uptake any nutrients, a nutrient inhibitor. And so this is done to increase the yields essentially on your wheat, and just. You could take organic wheat and call it organic and spray it with Roundup, and it's still considered organic in a lot of places and will be organic labeled, because people who have like these irritable bowel syndromes and stuff, it's glyphosate. It's not wheat. I have a little sister. She goes over to Germany once in a while, and she's been to Japan a couple of times, and all that stuff is banned in those countries. And she can eat Chick-fil-A and whatever, no problem. Can eat bread out of the store, no problem. She can eat wheat products, and there's I've heard this a lot, but yeah. So, and it also kills all the amphibians. It's tough on the bees. And so you get like a lot of predator, like you get a lot of pests that are tough on the crop. So then they start spraying all kinds of pesticides. But yeah, I think things are really good here in New Hampshire because we don't have government subsidized federal crop subsidy programs being used. They aren't dumping a bunch of pesticides and stuff. Obviously, if you live next to a golf course, that's pretty tough on everybody. That's actually the worst, the most unhealthy place to live in America is next to a golf course.
Really?
Yeah. The cancer rates and all of the things, because the golf courses are, they're just dumping all kinds of pesticides and chemicals on them all the time, and at least I mean, I hate to even think these words are coming out of my mouth, but it's like it's not like it's a food product, so there's no regulations whatsoever on it, so they can just use tons of Roundup, and all these golf courses are essentially using Roundup ready grass.
Yeah.
So they just go spray them all the time.
Yeah.
I've
done a bit of golf course work, and I definitely know what it smells like when they're out there spraying that stuff.
Yeah.
It is strong.
Yeah, that's bad stuff. But you can do things like if people actually want to learn a little bit about if you're not living in New Hampshire and you're living in Ohio or Kansas or the Carolinas, or all around all these peanut farms and stuff where they're using a lot of these chemicals, the whole Mississippi Valley of all that farmland is all of these chemicals, and that's why we have a dead zone in the Mississippi or in the Gulf of Mexico is at the Mississippi Delta, is because government subsidized, crop program, government crop subsidies. Essentially, you couldn't have that Mississippi dead zone there except for the government subsidies, because none of these farms would be using all of these synthetic fertilizers and all these chemicals, except for the government. The crop insurance programs require Monsanto growing practices. So, this guy David Avocado Wolf I met down in Anarchapulco, and then we went to one of his health and rejuvenation things in Florida last year. He's got some like real good products he sells. He's got a Telegram channel that's actually really awesome, and you should check him out if you're looking to like detoxify your body. He talks about using charcoal and all these other things you can do, and water fast and dry fasting. He does a lot of stuff like that. And I don't know if you guys remember, I used to have this like big nasty red welt in my forehead, and I actually started using a product called Green 85, which is the chemical free body. Is the guy's website. His name is Tim James. I met him at Anarchapulco, and yeah, definitely had some gut issue happening with that. My forehead was all broke out for like a couple years.
Interesting.
And those chemicalfreebody.com products helped, especially the Green 85. I actually have a promo code there, Jay. I think you get like 10% off or something if you use that in that website. But that was a good product. So there's a lot of things we can do to detoxify ourselves, and it's pretty hard to avoid the chemtrails. You might not even live next to a golf course, but there might be one a few miles away that's like upwind or downwind from you. It's blowing all the stuff there, or maybe there's one up the river that supplies the wells around the for the municipal water supply where you live.
I knew a guy that lost everything that way. He did quote organic potatoes, but he had drift, and when they came and tested his soil, they took him for fraud, took everything from him because his soil had tested too high.
For like chemical content?
Yeah. He lost everything.
Yeah.
And that's because people, 5 miles down the road were spraying. And it just got drifted.
They've done that to a ton of people. That's their standard operating procedure at this point.
Well, there's stories where, and this is, you can look this up. It went to the Supreme Court, and Clarence Thomas was like, he was a Monsanto PR attorney long before he was a Supreme Court justice. But I believe that he heard this case, and he should have, this conflict of interest, he should have recused himself from the case. But anyways, so what was happening is, Monsanto would just go and crop dust some farmers' fields that weren't even, had no authority to be crop dusting them with Roundup, and see that 20% of their corn didn't die. And they would say, hey, you didn't pay us, for our, whatever, trademarked, patented, genetics, and we know you have it because we sprayed it with Roundup and 20% of it lives, so we need that royalty payment. And the farmers are like, go to hell to Monsanto. So Monsanto literally sues them out of their farms. Yeah. And so one of these cases went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court agreed with Monsanto. Yes, if you're using your genetics, you have to pay it. And what it was is this guy was like reusing his own seeds. They'd been using for generations, but the way corn works, if you got 1,000 acres of corn and your neighbor's got 1,000 acres of corn, they mix genetically, and so I compare this to if I have a yellow house and my neighbor paints his house purple, and a whole bunch of purple dots, purple overspray comes over and hits my house. My neighbor being like, "Hey, you need to pay me for all that paint I got on your house," and then suing me and winning. Yep. This is basically, the same thing exactly with Monsanto. What it is. Yeah. So, the last time I called into the show was on February 22nd of this year, and it was right about 6 months ago, because it's August, and that was
August 22nd.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
I guess. So, I was in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and that was during that cartel war or show.
That seemed like an interesting time.
It was pretty interesting. I actually did a lot of research on what went down there and what was going on. I had just stumbled upon this Year of the Fire Horse, which started February 17th, and on February 22nd, the Mexican cartel, or the Mexican government, along with the U.S. government, I guess, allegedly took out this guy named El Mencho. And El Mencho was born February 17th, 1966, which was the last fire horse year, 60 years ago. So if you guys look into Chinese calendar, like every 12 years, there's like a horse year, there's like a goat year, there's a pig, there's a rat. And then every 60 years, for example, there's a fire horse. So in Chinese astrology, there is all of these elements. So there's fire, there's water, there's earth, there's metal, and there's wood. I think I got all those correct. Maybe there's air in there somewhere too, but there's definitely metal and wood. But in the in a fire horse year or a fire dragon year, or there can be fire whatever years, it basically means that there's no water in the elemental chart. There's nothing to put the fire out. And as I was researching this, I read that a lot of Chinese and Japanese families, Oriental families, would purposely not have children during a fire horse year because they were so worried that if they had a girl, she'd be so strong-headed that nobody would marry her. So this is the thing with the fire horse year. And people who are born during these fire horse years, they have a lot of power. So El Mencho was born during the fire horse year, and when I came home from Mexico, I was working with a group of guys. One of the guys I worked with, I'm not going to say his name, he grew up with El Mencho. He's like 2 years older than El Mencho. El Mencho grew up in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And this guy told me that El Mencho, that his father actually moved them out of this section of San Francisco they lived in to get his children away from El Mencho and his crew, because they were constantly getting in trouble. So El Mencho was like in and out of like juvenile detention centers, and he was like 15, 16 years old, and I forget what his real name is, but he went to prison for a jail for a little stint for dealing drugs. And then when he came back out, he was all Mexican cartel. Because essentially the prisons in California, Texas is like pretty much all cartel, influence, Mexican cartel. So this guy became the leader of essentially the Mexican cartels, most of them. There's several Mexican cartels. And the story is that like he's a kingpin, the boss of it. And then other people like, oh no, he was just a new generation Jalisco cartel. But what was interesting is he died like a week into the Firehorse year, and he was born in the last Firehorse year. So he had this like 60-year arc. And another kind of interesting thing to go along with this is silver was removed from the currency. Essentially, 1966 was the first year that there was no silver in any minted currency 60 years ago. So we've been off the silver standard essentially for, that 60-year arc. Hopefully something happens to where we go back to a silver standard, like this fiat stuff kind of everybody loses faith in it and stops trading. That would be cool. But, who knows? But if you guys are kind of wondering, like, if you've been struggling this year, internet search the year of the Firehorse and read some stuff about it, and maybe sort of there's like internet things you can go on to do your own like Chinese astrology chart where you put like your date of birth in there, and it tells you all these things about you, and put in your name, and it does something with your name, and like and also you need to know the time that you were born, so you want to figure that out. And it's a lot of people I've mentioned this to, they've sent me a text message or called me a few days later. They're like, hey, I went and I put my date of birth and stuff in one of these Chinese astrology things on, and he's like, so much stuff makes sense about me. Like I wish I knew this stuff years ago. And that's pretty weird. Like, how people react with like sort of how accurate things like this can be.
I haven't looked at the Chinese one. Is it like the sidereal one?
I don't know what the sidereal one is.
That's kind of the one that's used more in India.
Okay.
And then, I think they just call the other Western astrology.
I wasn't even planning on really talking about this Chinese, year of the Firehorse, but I did a lot of deep dive on it a little while ago. I actually did a Anarcho-Poco nonconformist series presentation about my experience with the being locked down for 2 days, and essentially real Puerto Vallarta. I was staying with a family that was just living in a neighborhood. It wasn't the high-end resort area. Although I did go there for, a couple of days after sort of the lockdown stopped, and I stayed there with, Silver Dave and the rest of the local Silver Mint, Silver Six, we were calling ourselves down there. We went to Anarcho-Poco to promote Silver Bits. In fact, if you guys go to localsilvermint.com, you can buy the cheapest fractional silver, the 1/10 ounce Silver Bits.
I can't believe how close he has it to spot for fractional silver.
Yes,
it is mind-blowingly low on the over spot price.
Well, Dave has been working on this for over 15 years. I've actually been right there with him in this, in helping him build his silver mint. I've actually worked on 3 different silver mints, including the one that they're operating right now. If you guys want to learn about the local silver mint, Dave has a really detailed YouTube channel, YouTube Local Silver Mint, where he has a lot of stuff about the silver factory. So this is the 3rd silver mint that I've worked in with Dave. And, it took him, as Dave likes to put it, 15 years to be an overnight success. He really dialed this down good. He's worked on this extremely diligently. And since he basically understood the fraud of the military-industrial complex, he was in Afghanistan where the DEA would not allow him to blow up a heroin processing facility, and he was just couldn't believe that. He was like, I'm flying in some helicopter back from some mission, and the DEA guy stopped me from blowing up a heroin facility.
Yep. Yeah, that's their drugs.
Right.
Blow those up.
Don't hurt the local economy. And then that was the whole purpose for the occupation of Afghanistan.
Yeah, you can see it in the growth charts.
Absolutely.
The year before the invasion, there was almost none, and then as soon as America went in there, tons of heroin started coming out again.
And like if you were growing heroin, you grow poppy, and then you extract opium out of poppy, and then you do some kind of process, I don't know what it is, to come up with the heroin, the opiates.
Yeah, concentrate it in some way.
Some way, yeah. And so, but if you were had any part of that, allegedly, Dave says he doesn't know anything about this because I've mentioned this to him before. So he's like, allegedly the Taliban would kill you if you were involved in basically alcohol or the heroin trade, or anything to do with it. They would just kill you over it. And when I said that to Dave, Dave's like, I'm not sure Taliban even exists. I never, seen any Taliban or met anyone who claimed to be part of Taliban. He thinks that was just something made up, which, you gotta create a boogeyman, right, to support a war. So who knows? But before the U.S. got there, the local people were not cool about, the heroin trade, and they would do some pretty violent stuff to you if you were into it. And then the U.S. went and invaded that country. Actually, 70 nations of the world were occupying Afghanistan for 2 decades, something like that. And so, the heroin, consumption just went crazy because the heroin was all government subsidized. There was a time I can remember in Springfield, Massachusetts, where they were like, it is easier for a 16-year-old to get heroin than a joint or a beer.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it was, in the mid 2000s, I'd heard that. So Silver Bits, check them out. We got a brand new product. It's a double-sided coined silver, and it's not a coin, but silver round. Mm-hmm. But
it was made on an actual coin press stand.
Coining press, yeah. So it's pressed from 3 sides. It's reeded on the sides. And they've actually been being made in former United States Mint dime presses, I believe is what they're using to press these.
Very nice.
To coin them. And I helped build that facility. It's working awesome. Dave's been doing a great job. And ever since Dave got back from Afghanistan, he just, the great spirit has instilled this passion within him to make sure silver gets in the hands of everybody. Fractional silver especially, because he knows that everybody's going to need some to survive, and we're going to need it to have an economy that's not going to be Mad Max. Mm-hmm. So if the people here in New Hampshire have a lot of silver, or there's a lot of silver distributed, or if people have a little bit of silver, or just at least fractional silver to do trades with, it's going to be a lot more civil than a whole bunch of people. If everybody's just got fiat or digital stuff that doesn't work for some reason.
Yeah.
Carrington event kind of thing, maybe.
Yep. Yep, and the fractional is really going to help too, because if you want to trade an ounce of silver for, something small during that time, it's really going to hurt you to give up that ounce. Give us a call. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
When I say Francis Ford Coppola, you think The Godfather, right? Have you tried his wines? I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. Where I live, Coppola wines are $12 or $13 a bottle, sometimes less on end caps. If you're shopping for vodka, remember it's merely vodka. All brands begin at an ethanol plant. Flavors aside, one big difference between brands is how fancy the bottle is, and those Belvedere and Chopin and Grey Goose bottles sure are works of art. It also matters how many times it was distilled. browse the vodka aisle, and you'll see unfamiliar brands distilled 5, 6, 7 times. They get the job done nicely, and I say so after a rigorous series of tests. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks at andyoucanquoteme.com.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. US President Donald Trump confirmed this week that he plans to meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un this year, with a possible summit on the sidelines of the APEC gathering in November. Pyongyang has so far poured cold water on the prospect of talks, with Kim Jong-un's sister Kim Yo-jong saying she is not aware of any communication between the two nations. President Trump's confirmation comes as he faces criticism over his decision to cut short joint military drills with South Korea. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
To get a denuclearization deal done with North Korea would be a huge foreign policy win, a huge win for any president at any point in their presidency. But Donald Trump is currently a president who looks like a president who needs a foreign policy win. His Gaza peace deal was signed and delivered last year, but it's limping along. It hasn't really come to fruition.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have revealed they plan to move back to Britain later this month, ending more than 6 years of self-imposed exile from the United Kingdom. The couple's children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, have been enrolled at British schools ahead of the new term in September, and the family will live at a private residence outside London. King Charles is said to welcome the chance to see more of his son's family, though the couple will not return as working members of the royal family. Ollie Barrett reports from London.
This was a surprise even to the King, as far as we understand it, who we believe was told about this move on Sunday. It doesn't mean that Harry or Meghan are likely to resume their roles as part of the working royal family, but we do understand from royal sources that King Charles welcomes the opportunity to see more of Harry and Meghan.
China this week publicly rejected Washington's sanctions campaign against Iran, ordering Chinese companies not to comply with US measures targeting 5 refineries accused of buying Iranian oil. Donald Trump launched what he called an unprecedented economic operation against Tehran, warning that any country offering Iran a lifeline would face severe financial retaliation. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has called on American allies to choose sides, describing the plan as the toughest sanctions in history. Jagruti Dave reports from Washington.
What we do know is that the president is calling it an economic D-Day and is saying that there will be tremendous economic consequences for any countries that effectively do business with Iran. The language in that social media post that Donald Trump issued suggests that there would be secondary sanctions on countries that buy Iranian oil.
And finally this week, Moderna and Merck have announced the first ever positive phase 3 results for a personalised mRNA cancer vaccine in melanoma patients. It's a breakthrough that has sent both companies' share prices sharply higher. From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live, talk radio you control. You can give us a call. The phone number here is 603-283-6160, and let us know what's on your mind. Are you tired of the oppressive rules and moderation of the big tech social media sites? Our Mastodon server at social.freetalklive.com can set you free. Mastodon is free, open source, decentralized, and federated. Multiple apps are available for iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, and Linux. That's social.freetalklive.com. In the studio tonight, it's Stu,
Angelo,
and Jay Noone.
We're going to go to the phones right now, since that's the point of the show. We've got Sarah in New Mexico. Sarah, what's on your mind?
Oh, yeah. Your show kind of started a little bit late, huh? I just called in.
I don't know. Are you saying that you've just started the show for us? Thank you, Sarah.
No, I just called in a little while ago. Anyways, I'm glad I got through, but I did bring up the Cheryl Williams Stapleton, our representative. She got I think she got indicted. She's going to be sentenced for embezzling money. I think I brought that up with Bonnie.
So she got indicted, and then she was convicted or pled guilty, and now she's at sentencing for, well, this is what almost all politicians embezzle money. This is what they do.
Well, not all of them, and then not all of them do get caught. But, I also know that, our representative only get per diems. I actually stick up for her because I think if she was getting paid $67,000, $70,000 for years, for 30, I think she was up there for 25, 30 years working for free. I think it would have prevented her from embezzling that kind of money.
Sounds like she invested her time poorly.
Well, you know what? The thing is that, she was actually a school teacher, so she was actually advocating and pushing policies.
How old is this woman? So she's been in office for 30 years, not getting paid, and she was a school teacher for before that?
Well, here, they want you to work a job and go up there and work there too at the same time and don't pay you nothing.
Then don't run, for that position.
Well, that was the thing, is that like you knew beforehand, like a school board, it's a unpaid job. School boards don't get paid. I don't think so. So you knew before you were running that you're not going to get paid. So then it's up to you that it's your fault. That's not within the policy that you got paid. I mean, you don't have entitlement to rip the taxpayers off. So that's why they sentenced her. But my thing is that I used to know a lady that a friend that would not pay her workers, and she always had her ladders, her tools, and lamps, and drills, and who knows what, everything else got ripped out of her house because they won't pay her. And then same thing with her housekeepers. She got all of her jewelry, everything else stolen out, and then she can't hire people to clean her house because she doesn't pay them what they agreed to. So to me, it's kind of like the same situation.
Well, how? Because the government already did not agree to pay the woman, and she still did the job. There was no upfront. There was no promise from the state government to pay these people to begin with. It wasn't like, hey, we'll pay you $70,000 a year if you run for office and win. It was, hey, if you run for office and win, you make nothing.
So I really like that legislators don't get paid. So in New Hampshire, the legislators do not get paid. They get like $100 a year, which is basically nothing, and then they can do like a mileage credit thing. So there was like a couple guys that are representatives from 3 hours north, and they submit their miles, and they get a few $1,000s a quarter or whatever towards fuel. Which, whatever, that's fine, but it's not like they're not getting paid. And the number one reason I don't like I like the legislator not getting paid is because then there's no legislative pension fund. So New Hampshire, we have an executive pension fund and a judicial pension fund. And every time New Hampshire DCYF or Child Protective Services in any state steals a child, interviews a child, they get this incentive money. It's called Social Security Administration Title 4E, if you look it up. In 2021, the Social Security Administration paid out $492 billion or million. I'd have to look at it, but it was $492 million, let's say, or $492 billion, actually, I think. Million, maybe. I can't remember the numbers. It's been a few years since I've looked into this. But of that incentive money, the Judicial Pension Fund gets 66% of it. And the lawyers that work for the for the judiciary, so this is all your prosecutors, your attorney generals, your judges, your secretaries that work in all of these courthouses and whatnot, and people involved in the judicial system, they're all beneficiaries of the Judicial Pension Fund. DCYF has become like this goose that lays golden eggs, Child Protective Services, for these judicial pension funds. Well, there is also a portion of this Title 4E money that goes to the legislative pension fund. And New Hampshire doesn't have a legislative pension fund for the legislators. They might have one for legislative staff or something, but not the actual legislators. But Massachusetts, for example, has a legislative pension fund. So every time Child Protective Services in Massachusetts goes and does one of these things, they get this money from the state. And now it incentivizes all of these legislators who are part of this pension fund to pump that pension fund, because the judges and the politicians and all of the governors and all of the political scumbags, essentially, that are part of looting this system, they use these pension funds very similar to how Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk use the pension funds to essentially not pay taxes. So like they want to go buy a house, a car, whatever, take out a personal loan. They just use the pension, their portion of the pension fund as collateral, and they get basically a sweetheart loan. They get all this money, and there's no income tax on it or anything like that on loans, which is fine. I'm anti-income tax anyways. And if you don't want to pay income tax, check out destinationsfreedom.org. You can learn how to get yourself out of the federal zone. It's a realistic thing, and I know dozens and dozens of people who have corrected their status. Destinationsfreedom.org. My friend Christopher Gronsky operates it. But anyways, so yeah, these judges, for example, every single one of everyone who's a beneficiary to these pension funds has a conflict of interest when it comes to Child Protective Services. And this is why they just literally keep on getting away with murder. And I think it might get a little worse, Child Protective Services, if the border's so-called closed, because I think the adrenochrome supply, that, you know, like the drugs that the elitist, you know, satanic pedophiles and pedophiles like to use, which is a chemical that is extracted from, you know, torturing children, you know, distilled from their blood. It's a real thing. Check it out. I know it sounds crazy.
They're doing a lot more than that. No, I guess in the Epstein files, they talk about beef jerky and cream cheese. And
yes, and they eat them. And this gives...
Isn't it weird that we all just kind of learned that our politicians eat babies and nobody even cares?
I've known about this for years.
Yeah, Alex, I was in high school talking about this stuff.
Right, but now it's like everybody knows and crickets.
And nothing's been done about it. But anyways...
Well, I just want to say this salary increase, they're going to have the voters decide. Because is it true up in the Washington, they've been giving themselves raises? Weren't they caught for increasing their... Congress and representative in the Washington, D.C., they've been known to give themselves raises and give her higher pensions and all this stuff. And the voters have no say-so in it.
Congress, con men. They're all, it's all a con.
Okay, so in our state, we're going to have the voters decide. It's going to be on the November 3rd ballot.
No, the voters aren't going to decide. The people that count the vote to decide. There's a big difference. The voters do not decide anything. I guarantee that, especially if you have electronic voting machines.
No, we don't have that. We have a paper. But the thing is that this was voted on before. I remember on this ballot like 3 years ago. They asked about the salary for the legislature. It was something like that, and I voted yes. And it's the same question. So then they voted against it about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's going to be on the ballot again. Isn't that so stupid?
So, how are you going to vote for this ballot measure?
Well, I'm going to definitely vote in favor of it, because I don't like what happened to Cheryl. Because I met her in the town hall meeting, and she was. I felt like that she sacrificed a lot, and she worked really hard for the school teachers union. And then I met her, and she was a really wonderful person. Because she did this. You know, I just felt like if she got paid, she would not have been so inclined to embezzle money.
Sarah,
that's my stance on it.
The school teachers unions are diabolically evil. They are destroying the children with the schools, with the wokeism. And another thing that is happening is there is massive school district bond fraud happening. There is this YouTuber, Real Estate Mindset, Mitch Vexler, is on there quite a bit. He's from Houston, Texas area. he sued the local school district. It took him 7 years for them to produce a debt amortization schedule. He had to go all the way to federal court, spent like $1 million, land developer, to simply get information. Then they refused to give it to him. He had to sue him for it. And the information was how much is owed on all the school district debts? What is the payout? And the answer was, I forget how many crazy amount of money. I'd just be lying if I said anything because I don't even know. It was a lot of money. But anyways, the debt amortization went out 258 years for this particular Denton County school district, which I think they were talking about. So it's all fraud. And this is because of the teachers union. So yeah, this lady you're talking about probably deserves to rot in prison for the rest of her life if she was in such staunch supporter of this evil cabal of the teachers union, which is, if landowners don't fund the teachers union in the United States of America, men with guns will show up at their house to remove them from their house. If they resist the men with guns that come to remove them from their house, they will leave their homes in a body bag. And this is what I'm talking about, is property taxes, or better yet, property extortion. And this is due to the teachers union. So I'm glad. I hope she goes to prison for a long, long time, because that's where she belongs. Anybody who is supporting these teachers union is as far as I'm concerned, a bad person.
Sarah?
No, but, for some reason, I'm going to try to write letters to her in favor of her, to her parole board or something, to let her out. Because she did a lot of good for our state and for the poor people, and she did a lot of work.
How did she do a lot of good while embezzling $3.2 million to her robotics company friend, and then him sending back, how much did she get back? She got back $1.15 million from this.
Well, before this happened, they had an African performing arts name, with her name put on the outside building, like a huge, like Trump wants to put his name everywhere on the boats and everything.
Hey, Sarah.
Her name was on it because people really loved her for all the work she was doing. And after this happened, they took her name down.
A bunch of
African performing arts.
Incompetent government dependents may have loved her for getting, that she might have, and that's basically everyone who is quite literally a member of the teachers union is an incompetent government dependent. They would have essentially no value except for it's the teachers union, this public school program, Child Protective Services, Health and Human Services. They're just all government employees or government jobs programs to essentially keep, to give people money, jobs, to exercise their authoritarian desires to other people on, minuscule levels. They're quite literally like, the house slaves on the plantation, in all these jobs programs. At least a government employee who is working for the highway department, who's plowing the roads, would actually still have value in a marketplace where the government didn't exist, because guess what? In New Hampshire, you still are going to have the roads plowed if there's no government. And there are lots of people, including myself, who would be happy to pay for that, to make sure that's done. But yeah, all these teachers unions and things, is all they are, is just jobs programs for incompetent, useless people that, didn't really have to do anything except for get a certificate in some college.
Exclamation point on incompetent, because if you look at the public schools today, the kids cannot read and write. They're 17, 18 years old. They can't string a sentence together. They can't read a sentence off the page. So the teachers aren't even doing what they're saying they're doing. They're not even teaching, right? They're just collecting a paycheck from the government.
Their teaching is just pride nonsense. There's gender garbage. And that's another thing I really like about the dirt bike community. I've been going to a bunch of these dirt bike events. I'm taking my son's going to turn 5. First of the month, he's going to go do his first dirt bike race on Labor Day weekend out in Hoosick Falls, New York. And we are, and I just found all these basically libertarians that don't even know they're libertarians in this dirt bike community. And I go to these dirt biking events. I don't see any pride flags. I don't see any, gay misuse or LGBTQ misuse of the rainbow. I don't like how these people stole the rainbow from the children. Because little kids love rainbows, especially little girls, and almost all these people I have talked to are either homeschoolers or they're like, yeah, my kid's not going back to school. This year we're homeschooling because, of all the nonsense they're pushing. And the one mom, she said she goes to Newport, New Hampshire. Her son's 14, and she's like, I taught him how to read. I taught him how to do math because they just were not doing it in the school. And the agenda that the schools are pushing is they want the people who come out of schools to be incompetent. They want them to be chronically afeared.
They want them to be in a state of learned helplessness. That's the point of school. And
a state of victimhood. So they can just beg the government to vote for more. So they can just vote for more government and beg for government subsidies, essentially.
Yeah, Big Daddy or Big Mommy would take care of it. Hey, Sarah, I have a question for you before you go. How would you feel if you didn't eat breakfast this morning?
Are you talking about me?
Yeah. How would you feel if you didn't eat breakfast this morning?
I don't usually eat breakfast. I just have a little coffee with cream.
Okay.
I'm one of those people that don't much eat breakfast.
How would you feel if you missed your morning coffee?
But that would really suck.
Okay. Yeah, good answer. Thanks for the call tonight, Sarah. There's
just got to make sure.
Yeah, just checking that she's got the imagination to at least conceptualize what it would be like if she didn't have the thing that she did have this morning. I was expecting her to just say, well, I did have my coffee.
But the thing about the schools, like I think it's part of it is it's gotten so bad you can't ignore it. Right? Like even like in the early 2000s when Bush first started this No Child Left Behind thing.
Oh, that was Clinton.
Was it Clinton?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, there's No Child Left Behind.
It could have been Bush number one getting it going and then Clinton picking up the ball. Yeah.
So, this is kind of like you have a bunch of teachers that went through that system to begin with that are now teachers. Does that make sense? We're starting to get downstream where we're like 1 or 2 generations into this whole idea of you don't really need to know anything to become a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And it's now the cracks are starting to show. And I think like this community, it's awesome that you've met them, but they should have been doing this 10, 15 years ago, right? Like I think it's great that people are waking up, but it's just because the institution has fallen so hard that if you ignore it now, you're actually probably mentally deficient.
Oh, yeah. Like one mom was telling me, so I was, making friends at the New Hampshire MX Park. In fact, I want to plug these guys. They're really great. NewHampshireMotocross.com. So my son and I did a 3-day motocross school, which was really awesome. So my dirt bike is a KTM 300 EXC. And my son's dirt bike is a Honda CRF 50, and he's 4 and like 11/12 doing this. And so there was a Pee Wee class, which was little kids, and then there was the big bikes, which I was in. So actually, my son was the youngest kid in the class. I was the oldest guy in the class, and the classes were split up for a lot of the drills and the thing. But that was really it was like. I got like this feeling kind of like I got at Pork Fest, essentially, just being up there camping out for 3 days with all these motocross families, like these 8, 10, 12-year-old kids. Like they understood how the carburetor worked, how the transmission worked. They understood about maintenance on the bike and tire air pressure, and they knew how to change their brake pads. They knew how to bleed hydraulic brakes. They knew how to like adjust cables. They understand clutch function. They understand... if they're riding 2-strokes, they understand mixing oil and fuel gas ratio. They understand rebuilding the engines, and this was all kind of like a big thing with this. When riding motocross is like I believe that we can have spiritual connection to machines because I'm a mechanic, and like I can literally just hear a machine doing something wrong, and I know right what it is. I'm like really good at it, especially certain equipment I work on all the time. And knowing all about the machine that you're working with is like imperative to like being good at motocross, for example. And the fact that these guys were a lot of them, not everybody, but like half the dads, for example, that were there, were wearing some kind of T-shirt that said some kind of freedom propaganda on it or something 2A supporting. And I started talking to these guys about the Free State Project, and half of them are like, yeah, I love the Free State Project. I'm so glad that New Hampshire was picked. And, and even a couple of guys are like, yeah, we left Vermont 2 years ago, moved across the river to, from wherever in Vermont to Leominster, New Hampshire. One guy lived right up the road in Leominster. And Leominster is where this Jolly Roger MX park is at. Actually, New Hampshire's got like dozens of motocross parks. We've been to 3 of them now, me and my kids, in the past 6 weeks. And one of them was a private one. There's another one called MX 101, which is on the other side of Concord. It's out in, I forget what town, like Chichester or something. But anyways, the culture, it's one of the things, like raising our kids, one of the most important things that we can do is keep them away from the bad apples. So you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So if you let your kids hang out with bad kids, they're going to be that is going to influence them in a negative way. And one of the things I really like about the dirt bike culture, whether it's guys trail riding, we've been trail riding also, or motocross, is like all of the moms and dads, the parents, most of them, they're like blue collar guys. They're workers. They're doers. Frank's paving, Joe's construction, so and so septic service. It says on the side of the pickup truck when they're showing up with the dirt bikes and stuff, and or electricians, plumbers, and even one guy he actually works for the state of New Hampshire that I've been trail riding with, and he loves the Free State Project. I'm not going to say what entity he works for, but like he's in the state of New Hampshire, and he's like, yes, but he is actually. He kind of does a job that would still exist if the state didn't exist. He's not like a pencil pusher in some office.
A cop.
And you know what? I believe cops would have work in the private sector if there was no, you're going to want security.
The incentives would be different, and they'd behave a lot better. I think.
Yeah, and it would be much better quality. And this guy I talked to, he said that like what he does for work essentially would be cheaper for the end user if you got all the pork out of the way. And he was essentially telling me that there's tremendous pork.
That's every government paid thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
That's why
how much can you fit in the front end before you do anything?
Yep. And just like this lady that you were talking about, the $3.2 million embezzlement.
Yeah.
So she gets all this probably government money.
Mm-hmm.
And so same thing.
The only difference is she got caught. They're all doing it.
Oh, well, Leah Cushman right here in New Hampshire. New Hampshire Family Justice Org, I believe, or New Hampshire Family Coalition. I'll get back on that, but we'll talk about Leo when we come back around.
Yeah, give us a call. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. You can talk about pretty much whatever you'd like. This is Free Talk Live.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if we get enough supporters, we may enable members-only chat. This new subscription method is a great way to decentralize our direct listener support away from just Patreon and also support a libertarian-run business, Odyssey. Please visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join to subscribe to our Odyssey channel and help support spreading our message around the planet. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join today. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. US President Donald Trump confirmed this week that he plans to meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un this year, with a possible summit on the sidelines of the APEC gathering in November. Pyongyang has so far poured cold water on the prospect of talks, with Kim Jong-un's sister Kim Yo-jong saying she is not aware of any communication between the two nations. President Trump's confirmation comes as he faces criticism over his decision to cut short joint military drills with South Korea. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
To get a denuclearization deal done with North Korea would be a huge foreign policy win, a huge win for any president at any point in their presidency. But Donald Trump is currently a president who looks like a president who needs a foreign policy win. His Gaza peace deal was signed and delivered last year, but it's limping along. It hasn't really come to fruition. And then there's Iran. That peace deal remains very elusive.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have revealed they plan to move back to Britain later this month, ending more than 6 years of self-imposed exile from the United Kingdom. The couple's children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, have been enrolled at British schools ahead of the new term in September, and the family will live at a private residence outside London. King Charles is said to welcome the chance to see more of his son's family, though the couple will not return as working members of the royal family. Ollie Barrett reports from London.
This was a surprise even to the King, as far as we understand it, who we believe was told about this move on Sunday. It doesn't mean that Harry or Meghan are likely to resume their roles as part of the working royal family, but we do understand from royal sources that King Charles welcomes the opportunity to see more of Harry and Meghan.
China this week publicly rejected Washington's sanctions campaign against Iran, ordering Chinese companies not to comply with US measures targeting 5 refineries accused of buying Iranian oil. US President Donald Trump launched what he called an unprecedented economic operation against Tehran after nuclear talks collapsed, warning that any country offering Iran a lifeline would face severe financial retaliation. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has called on American allies to choose sides, describing the plan as the toughest sanctions in history. Jagruti Dave reports from Washington.
What we do know is that the president is calling it an economic D-Day and is saying that there will be tremendous economic consequences for any countries that effectively do business with Iran. The language in that social media post that Donald Trump issued suggests that there would be secondary sanctions on countries that buy Iranian oil.
India and Japan have signed a maritime security cooperation pact during defence talks in New Delhi between the Indian Defence Minister and his Japanese counterpart. The two defence ministers have stressed the importance of a free and open Indo-Pacific, a theme that has defined the broader bilateral relationship in recent years. Ishan Garg in New Delhi says that the defence minister's remarks mirror commitments made at the highest political level.
They kind of echo similar sentiments that were made public by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi when she visited New Delhi a few months ago. And the idea of a free and Indo-Pacific, that was very much central to India-Japan dialogues when the Prime Ministers met, and it's once again very central to the dialogue when the defence ministers are meeting. And now analysts in New Delhi are saying that a partnership with Japan, India sees it not only as being limited to the field of defence, but it's a partnership that is going to go well beyond and has rather gone well beyond in the past few decades.
And the trial of Meta over alleged child harms from Instagram and Facebook began this week in Oakland, California, with opening statements from both sides taking place on Tuesday. 4 US states are seeking up to $1.4 trillion in damages, alleging the company knowingly designed its platforms to hook young users. Meta's chief executive Mark Zuckerberg is among the witnesses prosecutors plan to call during the 6-week trial. Iris Spitzer has more from San Francisco.
For Meta's part, its lawyers called the state's argument unsubstantiated and said that they were dealing with industry-wide challenges such as age verification, and that singling them out as being liable in this case was not fair, and they've repeatedly called the state's arguments overblown.
And finally this week, Moderna and Merck have announced the first ever positive phase 3 results for a personalised mRNA cancer vaccine in melanoma patients. It's a breakthrough that has sent both companies' share prices sharply higher. From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
Jode Cress Beckman. From claim jumpers to politicians to coyotes, the straight shooter that shook up the presidential race is taking them all on and licking them good.
Hello, Jode.
Who and what's behind these potato monkey shines?
Well, these scientists are trying to mass-produce potatoes that are more resistant to disease, but they're doing so in potentially dangerous ways that alter their DNA.
Tater disease what brung us Irish.
Right.
You give a tater man's constitution, you can bet he's coming to play old Joe to call.
Yes, well, nature's revenge could come in the form of disease
now you listen
or
to
allergens.
Me, taters. You gave a mind of a tater.
Jode, please, let me make my point.
You're tater-minded and you're looking to infiltrate old Joe's cabin, but you're too late.
No.
Now you get out, or
right,
I'll
Jode.
slice your tater heart out and fry it up on my grill.
Okay, Jode.
Now y'all stay close. You're gonna have my jug band back here, and if Jasper don't let me strum the washboard, we're gonna resort to cutting.
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. It's talk radio you control. The phone number to get on the air with us is 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. In the studio tonight, it's Stu,
Angelo,
and Jay Noone.
We have Dave Ridley on the phone, so we're going to go to him. Dave Ridley, what's on your mind?
Max Harms, a guy who is trying to save your life and has a better chance of doing it than most.
How so?
So, Harms is one of the guys who's working on what you might call safe superintelligence. He's with an organization called the MIRI, the Machine Intelligence Research Institute. So his lab, like a few others, is doing the stuff that the big frontier labs are not doing much. The ones that are pushing towards superintelligence, they're actually not doing that much safety work. It's being done by little labs like MIRI.
Okay, so what about him is what is he doing that differentiates him from these big guys on the frontier? Like what kind of safety implementation has he got going on?
Well, the main difference is that people like him are very unlikely to achieve superintelligence themselves, so they're not much of a threat, even if they're going off in the wrong direction. And the other thing that makes him a little different is he believes in a simple approach where you're just focused on making the superintelligence corrigible. So it will do exactly what you tell it. It will turn off exactly when you tell it to. It will correct itself exactly when you tell it to. And his belief is that if you don't try to do all the other stuff, like make it ethical and whatnot, then you don't confuse it, and you don't wind up trying to dump too much into it. If you just have the corrigibility, at least you can change it after you make the mistake.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
No, I kind of understand it. If you just make make the tool simple enough to where it can't bite back. Is kind of what I'm hearing.
Yes, but also you have to trust a lot in the person who is programming it or in charge of it, which he refers to as the principal. That person we call the principal. And for example, if Anthropic were to adopt Max's ideas, they would build a corrigible, Claude version 18 or whatever it is. And its number one priority is just to do what Dario Amodei tells it, right? Everything else is secondary. So you got to really trust Dario Amodei at that point. But at least we have a pretty good sense that he doesn't want to cook the world, right?
So it's almost like a case for monarchism, but you're just the monarch of your own AI.
Well, that's the other thing that's been going on in AI lately is that all the labs are very close to one another in terms of how advanced they are. There's hardly any lab that's more than a week or two ahead of the other leading labs, right? So it's really pretty unlikely at this point that we're going to see someone develop a singleton where they build the world's first superintelligence and they've taken over the world before anyone else can build the next model, right? Like that's something they used to be scared of. It looks like the chances of that happening have been going down over the last few years.
Well, I wouldn't doubt it. I could just see like corporate espionage is way higher than I think people like to talk about. And these guys really are, if they are as neck and neck as you say, it feels like if one of them makes a breakthrough, they all make it. Just because it's hard to keep that data secure with how everything's so on the internet. Like nothing's really safe on the internet, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think who knows? Maybe they're not making as much headwind as we think because they're all trying to steal each other's secrets and nobody's actually like making anything better. But who knows? I mean, I'm not so sold on the superintelligence thing. Still, the LLMs just haven't. We've been having to use like Chat GPT to make, or just like to try to make flyers and stuff for some things that I've been trying to do, and it's just bad. It's like soulless and it all blends together. I just don't see it. I don't see the Matrix being like a thing. Well, I can see the government like using it to screw us over really well, but I don't see it as like the uprising of the machines. I don't see.
And like this data center and AI thing, I also see it as like a massive pump and dump. Just from on the money, the finance side. Like now they're taking like all these bunch of pensions are essentially investing in AI and data center alleged construction and stuff. It sounds like a Solyndra solar panel deal where they get like hundreds of millions of dollars and don't build a single solar panel kind of deal.
Well, Alan Turing, who was really the father of modern computing, back in the 40s and 50s, he's the one that shortened World War II by 2 years with his computers. British guy. He said that superintelligence is a long way off, and you don't need to worry about it until someone passes the Turing test, right? Which is you can talk to a computer and you can't tell it's a computer. Well, we passed that a year or two ago. So again, you're arguing with Alan Turing, not with me, that we are close to superintelligence.
I just don't see it. I think it's, and I think if you can't tell you're talking to a robot after a certain length of time, I still can. Like I read comments and like that's an AI comment, man. I think there's still some things that aren't the idiosyncrasies are not there yet.
But I do
like the way it's speaking.
I do think we have a lot of younger people, maybe even not so younger people, definitely a lot of younger people who are being influenced by bots and like maybe AI type things, and they can't tell the difference because there's just all their content is essentially AI slop. It's a lot to do with playing the video games.
Starting to happen with the essays they write, because everybody's using Chat GPT to do their schoolwork anyways. and they're starting to learn like, oh, this is how you're supposed to sound or write because this is how ChatGPT showed me what's right. Does that make sense? So it's like changing the standard because everybody's just following ChatGPT as the standard instead of like the teachers or anything.
Well, first of all, not a one of us should be using Scam Altman's software or programs or AIs. We should be, probably using something like Venice.ai or Poe.com or something like that, where you're not using that guy. But the other thing is that the thing you're missing is what Ray Kurzweil calls exponentiality. You're looking at the world and the AI advancements from a linear standpoint, but you're not factoring in the exponential rate of growth that's been occurring over the last 4 years. And if that continues for the next 4 years, we're probably at super intelligence within 4 years.
Well, we can, I'll bookmark it. We'll talk about it in 2030.
Yeah, I may be held accountable, but it's like if you think about it, if you're in a stadium where the water level is doubling every day for 30 days, right? Well, on day 29, the stadium's only half full. You drown the next day.
Yeah, but that's if it's a constant progress. Like if it's, I just don't think the AI is going to stall out at some point. And it's going to slow. It's the same thing that's kind of happened with cars. Like, sure, the first cars aren't, like the Model T, it was an exponential growth to like, I don't know, the 60s, 70s. And we really kind of like fine-tuned the car. And now we're just adding more computers to them. It's not like we've really changed the concept of the car. There's only so much you can do with it, right? Like it's stalled out. Like a car is going to be a car. It's a combustion engine.
I might agree with that we peaked out on automotive excellency maybe in the early 70s.
So there was like a time where there was a boom, but that eventually that growth stalls out. And I think we're just in a boom with these LLMs and this AI, and eventually that progress will stall out.
There will possibly be an AI bust, just like there was a .com bust, but that didn't have much to do with whether the internet was a powerful technology.
That's right.
And intelligence has been growing exponentially all the way back to that moment when the first eukaryotic cell was formed. What was it, 2 billion years ago? It's been an exponential growth, really almost constantly. Moore's law has never been interfered with in the computer world either.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that one.
I should clarify that it's been superseded. I mean, Moore's law is not what's going on right now, but the exponential growth that has never stopped. World War I didn't stop it. The Depression didn't stop it. World War II didn't stop it. We've had an exponential growth in the power of computing that each dollar has.
We'll have to talk about this in 2030. I don't think it's going to be there.
Going to be somewhere.
Yeah, I really feel like it's a massive pump and dump. Just like you said, AI is soulless. It doesn't have a life force. It must consume energy to where people can have their own life force. But I do think AI is definitely making a lot of people dumb. Or not making them dumb, but people which results in being dumb, I guess. But people are not exercising their brains. It's like the guy who constantly uses a calculator to do simple math has a hard time doing math in his head, for example. And it, just like you were talking with the kids in school, doing their essays and their whatever, their things, their book reports essentially and stuff, all with ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's a real mess because that thing is so wrong so often, and it'll even cite its sources. But then if you do the next step to follow through onto those sources, you'll find out it's linking to nothing.
Yeah,
or essentially nothing. It's linking to some kind of fluff.
Or like a Reddit thread,
not a real source. Yeah,
a Reddit thread that's positing this as fact.
Yeah. So it is very dismal in that aspect. People probably shouldn't be using it all.
Anyway, check him out, Max Harms at intelligence.org.
All right. Thanks for the call tonight, Dave.
So I was left off talking a little bit about Leah Cushman. So we were talking about this, representative who embezzled $3.2 million through essentially an NGO of hers or something like that. I don't know what it is.
No, what it kind of sounds like is they probably gave that guy a contract or something, and then she got a kickback.
She siphoned off public school funds to this robotics company that was her buddy,
right?
Joseph Johnson,
Okay.
I think the guy's name was.
Okay,
and then he funneled back to her a little
So,
more
like,
than $1 million.
did she hire him to do something for the schools?
I don't know. It didn't give me those details in the quick.
So what's happened here in New
I saw.
Hampshire is I went to some committee hearing about a year ago, and Leah Cushman's family foundation. I didn't look it up in the break what it was. I'm sorry, I forget off the top of my head here. But anyways, she brings up that there's this committee person, a woman, I forget her name, who's on this committee whose husband owns a company that is a vendor to the state of New Hampshire, and they offer like services for like abused women or something like this. And haven't really given any services to abused women, but they're still getting millions of dollars a year from the state for whatever to provide
How did you
something.
find this?
Just doing some investigation. Almost all these vendors that the state uses are totally politically connected. There's massive conflicts of interest.
Yeah.
This is happening everywhere. These real estate mindset guys I had plugged earlier, Real Estate Mindsets, their YouTube channel, they're constantly talking about in Texas and where they are, like pretty much every vendor that has to do with the city, the town, the county, or the state is some kind of massive conflict of interest. There's some guy who's on the board who's like somehow like within a couple of degrees of separation.
Yeah, it's always the mayor's cousin or something.
Absolutely.
And they're not
All
doing
that
any
stuff.
actual work, and they're getting paid 20,
Correct.
30 times what somebody who works hard does.
So the New Hampshire Family Coalition, I believe, is what it is. This thing is called that Leah's been running, and it's helping expose like a lot of these issues, and she does like email blasts and stuff, and Leah had brought this right to this legislator's face, is that your husband owns this company, and she's like, no, he doesn't. And yeah, he hasn't owned it as of a year ago, but he's still on the board of directors, and he collects a paycheck, and this vendor spends a lot of money giving political donations to woke libtard Democrat politicians, essentially, that are just part of the extraction process.
So it's just
here.
the same thing the unions do?
Yeah, basically the same thing the unions do. And
heard this story before.
And based on what I can tell, it seems like 99.5% or maybe 99.2% of the New Hampshire legislator of the Democrats in the New Hampshire legislature are authoritarian types. The only guy I can think of who isn't is a guy named Jonah Wheeler. And roughly half of the Republicans are basically, authoritarian status types, and then the rest of them are a bunch of, sort of liberty-minded guys, mostly free staters.
Well, I think being a Democrat, you're inherently like an authoritarian because you have to go take people's money with force to go redistribute it. Like you're
Correct.
like
Both
you,
sides are
you
authoritarian.
never get away from authoritarian while trying to run social welfare programs, because you always have to take that money from somebody else who produced something of value for it and redistribute it.
And on a national level, like there's really just like Stu had said, there's like no difference, between them.
There really isn't.
I mean, if we look, whether it is a Republicans running the legislature or the executive, or Democrats running a legislative executive, you're still getting more debt. You're still getting war. You're still, nobody ended the Fed yet.
Yeah.
We still paying property extortion everywhere.
The only difference is whether they're appealing to the mommy government side or the daddy government side.
So just to wrap this up, Leah has brought up many, many times these massive conflicts of interest right here in New Hampshire. and nothing happens. Nothing gets done about it. We had a committee to investigate New Hampshire DCYF, and there is massive conflicts of interest within multiple ways within DCYF. Every which way you look, all the money, all the people involved. There is they're just horrible, and the fact that the family court essentially has no jurisdiction whatsoever unless you step in their jurisdictional trap, unless you sign their documents, agree to their stuff. It's not an actual court of law, and
most courts aren't.
Yeah, most courts aren't. None of the district courts are courts of law. The only court of law in New Hampshire that we can tell is an actual court of record. A record doesn't mean that they're recording on a record, that they're creating a record. Record means that actually a whole bunch of things. I don't have the list in front of me, but if you look up in Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, a court of record, it's pretty specific of what it is, and that is what the Constitution requires, both on a federal and state level. And the only court of record is the New Hampshire Supreme Judicial Court. But the problem is, all those justices are likely beneficiaries of the Judicial Pension Fund, which is heavily funded by, this $492 million that was, in 2021. I'm sure it's more now. That was, distributed to the states from the Social Security Administration. And if you're wondering where your precious Social Security money is going, much of it is going to fund child trafficking via Child Protective Services. And all the judges, all the prosecutors, all the state, judicial people are on the take big time. And in states like Massachusetts, New York, California, where they have legislative pension funds, those guys are all on the take too. And there is actually a chunk of it that goes to the executive pension fund, from what I understand. Mike Gill really got into this stuff years ago. And, the New Hampshire State Police tried to kill him, from what he has to say. And he's still basically currently in hiding. He said a few years ago he was basically going to come out of hiding once Trump fixed everything, but I think Mike Gill has realized that Trump wasn't the savior. And that's another thing I observed too is 5-6 years ago we got to witness this, especially in the libertarian movement here in the Free State Project. We got to witness this mass formation psychosis of people who are just going to wear a mask and take vaccines. For example, Dennis Goddard, he's one of these guys. He was a Free Stater, and nobody's heard from him since he went full retard, on the vaccines and masking and all this stuff. But he was a avid Ian Freeman hater. He would call into the show and give Ian a really hard time, and
that's because Ian actually likes freedom.
Right. Yeah. This guy's
freedom makes an authoritarian real uncomfortable.
He's Dennis, for example, he's kind of a soy boy that lacks like testosterone, so he doesn't have like this confidence among him with himself, for example.
Yeah, a guy like that definitely needs government.
And there was a whole bunch of others that sort of went to the dark side. So what happened is the mass formation psychosis with the left sort of distilled a whole bunch of I call it the second distillation of the Free State Project. The first one was people who left where they were going or where they were living to come here to New Hampshire to be part of this. And then the second distillation sort of happened with the left-wing mass formation psychosis of all the lefties, who are going to like trust the science and, take the experimental vaccines because, they are in this academic cult. They have a PhD or a doctorate or some sort.
Yeah,
and they went to college.
You got to wear the face diaper even though it doesn't make sense.
And now what is pretty hilarious I'm seeing is this is the third distillation. And my friends who drink whiskey, they really like this triple distilled whiskey because all the stuff's been like, it's been run through the still 3 times. So I say the third distillation of this liberty movement in New Hampshire is right-wing mass formation psychosis with all these guys who are just like salivating over how much they love Donald Trump.
Oh man. Yeah. Do you like Donald Trump? Give us a call. Let us know about that. If you're absolutely not disappointed in all of his lies and shenanigans. Phone number here is 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Rising fees have made Bitcoin useless for purchases, But Dash continues to have fees less than 1 cent per transaction, and its features ensure Dash is undefeated as the most useful cryptocurrency in the marketplace. From a technical standpoint, Dash transactions are irreversible, and its network is protected from 51% attacks by their Chainlocks technology. There's no need to wait for a confirmation before considering a Dash transaction complete, so it's great for merchants. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. Big thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. US President Donald Trump confirmed this week that he plans to meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un this year, with a possible summit on the sidelines of the APEC gathering in November. Pyongyang has so far poured cold water on the prospect of talks, with Kim Jong-un's sister Kim Yo-jong saying she is not aware of any communication between the two nations. President Trump's confirmation comes as he faces criticism over his decision to cut short joint military drills with South Korea. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
To get a denuclearization deal done with North Korea would be a huge foreign policy win, a huge win for any president at any point in their presidency. But Donald Trump is currently a president who looks like a president who needs a foreign policy win. His Gaza peace deal was signed and delivered last year, but it's limping along. It hasn't really come to fruition.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have revealed they plan to move back to Britain later this month, ending more than 6 years of self-imposed exile from the United Kingdom. The couple's children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, have been enrolled at British schools ahead of the new term in September, and the family will live at a private residence outside London. King Charles is said to welcome the chance to see more of his son's family, though the couple will not return as working members of the royal family. Ollie Barrett reports from London.
This was a surprise even to the King, as far as we understand it, who we believe was told about this move on Sunday. It doesn't mean that Harry or Meghan are likely to resume their roles as part of the working royal family, but we do understand from royal sources that King Charles welcomes the opportunity to see more of Harry and Meghan.
China this week publicly rejected Washington's sanctions campaign against Iran, ordering Chinese companies not to comply with US measures targeting 5 refineries accused of buying Iranian oil. Donald Trump launched what he called an unprecedented economic operation against Tehran, warning that any country offering Iran a lifeline would face severe financial retaliation. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has called on American allies to choose sides, describing the plan as the toughest sanctions in history. Jagruti Dave reports from Washington.
What we do know is that the president is calling it an economic D-Day and is saying that there will be tremendous economic consequences for any countries that effectively do business with Iran. The language in that social media post that Donald Trump issued suggests that there would be secondary sanctions on countries that buy Iranian oil.
And finally this week, Moderna and Merck have announced the first ever positive Phase 3 results for a personalised mRNA cancer vaccine in melanoma patients. It's a breakthrough that has sent both companies' share prices sharply higher. From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. It's talk radio you control. You can be a part of the show by calling 603-283-6160. We'll talk to you about pretty much whatever you'd like to. I'd like to thank Anthony for being an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Anthony went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Thanks again to Anthony and everyone who supports us. Again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier. In the studio tonight, it's Stu,
Angelo,
and Jay Noone.
We have a caller on the line, so I think we'll go to the phones. On-screen caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Good morning to you. Well, it's not for me, but is it, Mario Di Mezzo going to be anytime soon, or no? It's not what I want to call about, but just a quick question.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, she's not been on in about a year. But I heard about the crypto stuff, and y'all talking about this crypto stuff. What's your opinion on that, and how would you feel about that for small business owners?
I'll take a shot at that. Cryptocurrencies are pretty cool, most of them. Technically, things like Tether are a cryptocurrency, and that one's not pretty cool. Bitcoin is halfway cool. It promised to be cool in the beginning and has since backed off on a lot of its coolness. Privacy coins are cool, totally cool all the way. And I think all businesses should strive to encourage their customers to use them, and they should all accept them.
What kind? Is this an online business or like a brick and mortar business? What kind of business are you thinking?
He runs. My friend, his name's William. He runs a restaurant.
Okay. One thing I like about a restaurant or like a farmer's market or any brick and mortar business or any sort of in-person service accepting Bitcoin is I think the client or any crypto in general, I think it draws better clientele. So like, for example, DavidAvocadoWolf.com is a David Avocado Wolf's online store, and he accepts Monero, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin, Zcash, and maybe even Dash. And I encouraged him a few years ago to do this because me, for example, I don't have a bank account. I don't have a debit card. I'm not even really interested in going to Dollar General and buying a vanilla card, which I can do. I just really dislike this digital payment system very much. But I'm okay with, the digital payment of Monero. I really like that. I like Bitcoin Cash because it works, and it's always been, these relatively good transaction fee price. And I definitely like Bitcoin less and less as time goes on because Bitcoin can, there's a lot of hiccups essentially that have happened with Bitcoin. And I've been using crypto for over 10 years. When I first moved to New Hampshire, I was getting tremendous amounts of payment in Bitcoin and things like that, plowing driveways and mowing lawns and doing welding and fabrication work. And, the past, since the first of the year, 2026 here, I've been getting paid almost all in silver. For like, I sold a bunch of chicken the other day for silver. Yeah. I do welding fab work. I get paid. I got a couple of, but most of the guys I'm dealing with are, they're free staters or libertarians. They've been stacking silver. The silver's up, and and everybody I deal with that wants to get paid in crypto, for example, they all want Monero. Like they're like, nope, I don't want BCH, I don't want BTC, I want Monero. And so, and I have only maybe gotten a couple of crypto transactions in like the past 6 months. And those were only literally because the guys were, far away. The guys in Mexico, I did some work for them, and they paid me some money in Monero, for example. And but what I would also encourage. So I would definitely encourage him to take crypto, to advertise that they accept Monero, Bitcoin. There are a lot of people who, and this is what I do a lot, and a lot of people who are very much into cryptocurrencies. They will internet search like restaurants that accept crypto. And also another thing he may want to do is check out silver and silver bits, especially silver bits being there's a vendor program for businesses that accept silver bits. It's more tailored towards New Hampshire. But if you go to localsilvermint.com, and I believe on the top of the website it's going to say micro markets, check out the micro markets. Local Silver Mint has a program for, vendors or retailers or whatever to, trade in and accept silver. And the idea with the silver is when somebody comes to your restaurant and buys like a $15 cheeseburger meal platter, whatever, and they pay with an ounce of silver, and an ounce of silver is worth $67. You can give them change in silver bits, and there's actually like a special rate that Local Silver Mint will sell you the silver bits as if you're going to use them for change on silver transactions. And there's a lot of guys doing that here in New Hampshire. There's a handful of retail places that are accepting silver and giving change in silver. My chiropractor does, Bright Light Chiropractic. Cohen Steel accepts silver, and we went in there about 3 or 4 weeks ago and bought a bunch of steel for a project and paid him with a 10-ounce bar, and we got change in bits. That was pretty awesome. The chiropractor's giving change in bits. There is Bardo Farm accepts silver. I accept silver. I can't think of too many more off the top of my head, but even locally at a bunch of our farmers markets, people accept silver. I've been giving my kids silver bits for like the past 2 years. And they're young, they're 5 and 6 right now, but I give them silver bits last couple of years. I'm like, you guys get anything you want if you can convince the people to take silver, and it's really hard to say no to a little kid. And the people who took silver the last couple of years, the old lady who took silver for her sheep's milk gelato ice cream is very happy that silver is at $67 an ounce, because she got it at like 28, 33, and she's like, I still got it, I didn't spend it, I'm saving it. So it's pretty awesome.
Well, this business is in Hurricane, Utah, and I'm not exactly sure how silver would really work for this business, because it's a combination, pizzeria and arcade.
In a Hurricane?
Well,
Hurricane, Utah.
Oh, cool.
I've
been there.
If you're not sure, I encourage you to go to localsilvermint.com, and it could be /micro markets, but if you just go on their webpage and click on micro markets or silver markets, there's some support and some encouragement to do it, and it might give them some ideas. This owner could just buy the silver essentially out of the register every day, or then my oil guy takes silver. The guy I buy grain from for my farm, he takes silver. Another guy I've been buying hay from, I paid for the silver and hay. For the hay and silver. So it's, and if anybody's half smart, they understand that silver just can't be created out of thin air. Men have to dig into the earth and do hard work to come up with silver, and silver's limited, and silver is heavily consumed. And we know that the Federal Reserve is going to at least produce 2% more money every year at minimum, and which we know that's a lie. They do much more than 2% every year. Inflation, but their goal is 2%, but they do much, much more. And the only problem I see really with crypto is, I said Carrington-like event in one of the last segments. That was where basically a massive solar blast hit the earth in, I don't know what, the 1860s or something. It leveled parts of Russian forests. It put such an electronic burst on the earth. And we haven't seen anything like that since, and it's bound to happen again, from what I understand. And that would totally just basically take down all the grids everywhere for a long time, and your crypto's going to be pretty useless at that point. But your silver is going to be super handy.
Yeah, I'll talk to William Afton about buying the silver, if he's it's a bit hard to upkeep this business with it being haunted, and the animatronics get a bit quirky at night.
Well, you should plug his business. Maybe some people go check it out. There are people who like to go to haunted places.
Oh, well, it's called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
All right, cool. You should definitely get them signed up to take silver and crypto. Yep, everybody go visit that place in Hurricane, Utah.
It's a good diversity of your assets, and silver is it's yours. It's a hard asset. You hold it in your hand. And crypto, if you have the correct wallet, for example, and you have the seed phrase, that's a yours too, according to the people who know more about computers to me, but I don't really quite understand how you hold it. It's digital. I get how you hold it through, a wallet that you have the keys to.
Well, you're holding it is dependent on everybody else not walking away from the game.
Yes.
With
the crypto, right,
you wouldn't have
right.
anything.
Right.
Whereas with silver, everybody else could decide they don't want it anymore, and if you still have your silver, it can still be used in electronics or, solar panels or whatever.
Well, if these data centers, are actually going to be built, they're going to need a lot of silver. I don't think they intend on building all these data centers they're talking about. Like I said, I think it's just a pump and dump. But, solar panels, electric cars, military robots that look like humans. What are those Boston Dynamic type dogs with rifles on their heads? They're going to need a lot of silver. Tomahawk missiles use a lot of silver. 400 ounces of silver per Tomahawk.
Really?
Yes. That's
what do they need so much silver in there for?
I don't know. Silver kills people better? I'm not really sure. But that's, I could be wrong. It's just something I heard from a YouTuber.
The more they spend on it, the better it is at blowing up that tent over there in the Middle East.
They could just be saying there's 400 ounces and there's only 2 ounces of silver in it. Just to instead of saying the hammer costs $50,000, it takes 400 ounces of silver to build this missile.
Well, we covered a story a couple weeks ago about the internet meme that these flock cameras contain gold and and a whole bunch of copper, and it was totally ridiculous.
Yeah, and you can buy them for like $12, right?
Yeah. Yep.
No, it was a picture that just said, "Hey tweakers, did you know I have X amount of precious metals in me?"
Yeah.
It was like 21 pounds of copper or something.
Yeah,
in a 3-pound
ridiculous.
We got to go to the phones right now. We've got an on-screen caller. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Why silver doesn't back our money anymore?
Yeah, I know.
It's because Kennedy took it off our paper backing.
Oh, okay.
Because he knew that silver wasn't money. What's that? Yeah, it actually was. He ushered in the Federal Reserve note.
The use of silver has been under attack for a long, long time before Kennedy. The bankers have historically hated silver.
Yeah, because it's too bulky.
Because it's real money.
You can't use it for backing.
Because they can't inflate it.
Can't print it out of thin air, and you can hide it, and you can do private transactions with it.
Yeah, and private capital creation, which they absolutely hate.
That's a problem because money needs to grow. The money supply needs to grow with growth of capital.
No, it doesn't.
Or else the money won't survive. Yes, it does.
No,
fixed supply money is like Bitcoin or something. They'll ultimately die.
What are you talking about?
So I disagree. So I had a talk with some slimy Massachusetts politician about 25 years ago about this very subject. I forget the guy's name. But anyways, he was talking about how the Federal Reserve is necessary to create money as the population grows. And I says, no. I says, you stay with gold and silver only because it can't be created out of thin air. And as your money, the value of your money increases, everybody is incentivized to save money and not go out and buy stupid junk, not go have a bunch of subscriptions. And people...
You just explain why it leads to the downfall of our currency. You can't have an appreciating money, right? You cannot have that. You need to have a neutral money.
Why can't the money appreciate?
It incentivizes you. So Jay doesn't know the difference between saving and hoarding, right?
Oh, hoarding. How dare you not spend all your money down to the very last dime and then be totally broke?
Hoarding creates an economic loss for society because you forego productive projects in favor of just sitting on money.
Hoarding has its own cost too.
Yeah, it's opportunity cost. It destroys productivity, but you can't.
Okay, so who would do that?
Opportunity cost. So let me give you an example. Stu, if you have a deflation rate of let's say 10% on your money, let's say if you have $100 million saved up, right? You can just sit on it, do nothing with it, and earn a 10% return.
Cool.
Would you take on a productive? So you're not producing anything. You're just stealing off the people producing things.
You know what I might do with my silver? If it was going up 10% every year, I might invest in a silver mine and start mining silver.
But you're not listening to what I'm saying, right? You're stealing from the productive. You're not doing anything. You're not going out.
Not spending my money and saving it is stealing from people, really.
Yes, because you're stealing because that added purchasing power came from somewhere. Jay, if you didn't study sovereign citizenship and you really study economics, you'd understand that. Where does the increased purchasing power come from?
Not from Skeeter sitting in his mom's basement.
Under your mattress. Where does that purchasing power come from? You're stealing it from people actually going out and producing more than 10%.
No, when you steal, you've taken something and then the person no longer has it.
Let me just get this point out. When you have a deflation rate of a certain number, like I said, 10%, people that produce over 10% with their projects still produce, but the people under that will not, right? And that's why the more productive people will ultimately leave that currency, creating ultimate hyperinflation, even though the supply is fixed. It's from the mass unadoption of the currency by the productive. That's what you don't understand. The productive don't want to be stolen from too.
Right? Well, I can tell you the big corporate, monopolies like, Walmart, for example, certainly don't want, the value of the dollars increasing because it means that they're going to get less dollars for their product, less currency unit for their product as it sits in a warehouse. And, so like a lot of people, as soon as, and so what you have now today, whereas most of society, and actually most of society is in so much debt, but what's been going on is a lot of people are spending their money as soon as they get it because they know it's just going to devalue. They're not waiting for their tires to be worn out on their car before they buy them. I mean, that's like when I had my trucking business, I would buy tires years in advance because like a year in advance sometimes I'd buy them bulk when I had multiple trucks and trailers. And I made sure I ran the same size tires on everything for this because I always knew that like if oil goes up, tires go up crazy and like they never come down in price. And actually tires have come down in price. You should check them out online. I think it's because the economy is slowing down.
Isn't to create a money that's deflationary. That creates just as much damage only on the other side of the spectrum. But money needs to exactly grow with capital. So you don't have any inflation. You don't have any artificial incentive to invest irrationally or spend irrationally or save irrationally.
But then this puts so much power in the hands of central bankers who are creating the money out of thin air.
Who said that? Who said anything about central banks, Jay?
You're talking about money that can just be created more. And just create more of it by doing nothing.
It's algorithmically done, right? You need, like, for instance, so money needs to do one thing, right? It needs to allocate.
It needs to
capital
do many things.
That's what the purpose. That's the purpose of money is. No, it needs to do one thing. That's its one goal. That's its one function. It has no other function.
There's multiple functions to money.
No, there's only one function. It's to allocate decision-making of capital.
That might be fiat money. That might be the function of fiat money. That's created out of nothing.
It's to allocate decision-making of capital. Capital doesn't make decisions. What? You're nonsensical. You're more nonsensical today than usual, Skeeter. Do you have a point, or am I going to move on?
Why don't you go to AI and ask it, are humans capital?
No, I know about the whole human resources thing.
They're capital too. Humans are capital, and their decision making. Humans are a special type of capital. We can arrange capital in certain ways, right? And that's what money is. The function. That's what money serves. That's what money function is in a capitalist, in a market system. It distributes decision making power, right? Whether you want to aggress, whether you want to own something, whether you want to take on a project, whether you want to produce or destroy, you need capital to do it.
Humans aren't capital.
And that's how. What's that?
Humans aren't capital.
Well, they are to huge corporations and governments.
No,
they exercise those capital.
They're not They're not exactly capital though. That ended with chattel slavery. You can't trade humans. I mean,
Google it.
you can in the black market, and they do. But
you know what the definition of capital is? What's the definition of capital? So you can see if it applies to humans.
How about you give me the definition?
Come on. No. You're the one claiming that humans are capital, so you must have known the definition of capital, right?
Well, capital is essentially, having money to invest to do something with others.
Nope. No. Capital is a production good. Right? What do you think value of humans come from? It comes from our ability to produce. That's what decision making is for.
That's why I talk about raising useful, valuable, and competent children to be useful, valuable, competent adults, so they don't have to turn out like Skeeter or be dependents on the state.
Who are you to judge that, right? Teaching them sovereign citizen law isn't making them more productive.
First off,
who are you to judge what productive is and isn't?
Yeah, well, you know what, Judge?
Sovereign citizen law. Sovereign citizen is an oxymoron created by the Southern Poverty Law Center or FBI. Just like
Same
conspiracy theory, right? And so, if a sovereign is someone who is free, and a citizen, according to the 14th Amendment, is someone who's a subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, for example, or subject to the crown.
You're free.
I'm pretty.
I am free.
Thanks for the call.
That guy's such a pain in the butt.
Kind of thanks. Man, that guy's an idiot.
Well, hey, we got a little bit left here in this segment, and I would like to just let people know that I got a pretty cool website up right now, jaynoone.com. That's JAYNOONE.com. And I got some stuff on there about Man Camp, my idea to restore confidence in mankind. And what I would really like to get going and get done is I want to get doers. I want to get workers. I want to get tradesmen encouraged to teach their craft or their trade to some young kids, or allow kids just to have fun. And the young kids, I really think as soon as kids are 6 years old, they should get an opportunity to do some iron work, to do some forging. Like what I do is I set up at festivals, and I also do this right at my house with families privately, and my homeschool co-op. So one of the things I do is I have the kids make a coat hook out of iron, and they put it in a forge, and they manipulate it, and they hammer it on the anvil, and I have them make some coat hooks, and then they give them to their aunties and their grandmothers and whatnot. And
that's almost like the Home Depot birdhouse thing. I used to do that as a kid. The Home Depot would have a thing where kids could come and they would teach you how to build a birdhouse.
Oh, nice.
Let you put it together and nail it and glue it, and then you got to go home with your birdhouse.
Yeah, and you got to feel good about it. You got to understand how some things worked. And the most important thing is building a dopamine hit while learning a skill. Earning a dopamine hit while learning a skill. And this is, I think, what we have to do to basically have, start this generation next to be useful, valuable, and competent.
Give us a call. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
Japan grants suffrage to female robots, and a hypochondriac maple tree is always convinced it has Asian longhorn beetles. The following two statements are true. The previous statement is false, and this is the Onion Week in Review. This week, Americans nationwide were stunned to hear horrific allegations on Wall Street revealing that numerous junior bankers have been forced to survive on a mere $6,800 per week. The findings, which implicate numerous high-profile financial institutions such as Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, and Citibank, suggest that hundreds of first-year bankers are constantly deprived of basic necessities, including penthouse apartments overlooking Central Park and regular company-financed vacations to the French Riviera.
Many of these bankers are 23 or 24 years old and don't even have access to an expense account of over $50,000 a year. Not only that, but some of them are making as little as 20 times minimum wage. This is truly disgraceful.
This is the Onion News Network.
Eleutheromania. the insatiable desire for freedom. It's the new 3-song heavy metal EP from Captain Kickass. Available now on your favorite music app or get it directly from CaptainKickass.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. US President Donald Trump confirmed this week that he plans to meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un this year, with a possible summit on the sidelines of the APEC gathering in November. Pyongyang has so far poured cold water on the prospect of talks, with Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong, saying she is not aware of any communication between the two nations. President Trump's confirmation comes as he faces criticism over his decision to cut short joint military drills with South Korea. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
To get a denuclearization deal done with North Korea would be a huge foreign policy win, a huge win for any president at any point in their presidency. But Donald Trump is currently a president who looks like a president who needs a foreign policy win. His Gaza peace deal was signed and delivered last year, but it's limping along. It hasn't really come to fruition. And then there's Iran. That peace deal remains very elusive.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have revealed they plan to move back to Britain later this month, ending more than 6 years of self-imposed exile from the United Kingdom. The couple's children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, have been enrolled at British schools ahead of the new term in September, and the family will live at a private residence outside London. King Charles is said to welcome the chance to see more of his son's family, though the couple will not return as working members of the royal family. Ollie Barrett reports from London.
This was a surprise even to the King, as far as we understand it, who we believe was told about this move on Sunday. It doesn't mean that Harry or Meghan are likely to resume their roles as part of the working royal family, but we do understand from royal sources that King Charles welcomes the opportunity to see more of Harry and Meghan.
China this week publicly rejected Washington's sanctions campaign against Iran, ordering Chinese companies not to comply with US measures targeting 5 refineries accused of buying Iranian oil. US President Donald Trump launched what he called an unprecedented economic operation against Tehran after nuclear talks collapsed, warning that any country offering Iran a lifeline would face severe financial retaliation. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has called on American allies to choose sides, describing the plan as the toughest sanctions in history. Jagruti Dave reports from Washington.
What we do know is that the president is calling it an economic D-Day and is saying that there will be tremendous economic consequences for any countries that effectively do business with Iran. The language in that social media post that Donald Trump issued suggests that there would be secondary sanctions on countries that buy Iranian oil.
India and Japan have signed a maritime security cooperation pact during defence talks in New Delhi between the Indian Defence Minister and his Japanese counterpart. The two defence ministers have stressed the importance of a free and open Indo-Pacific, a theme that has defined the broader bilateral relationship in recent years. Ishan Garg in New Delhi says that the defence minister's remarks mirror commitments made at the highest political level.
They kind of echo similar sentiments that were made public by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi when she visited New Delhi a few months ago. And the idea of a free and Indo-Pacific, that was very much central to India-Japan dialogues when the Prime Ministers met, and it's once again very very central to the dialogue when the defense ministers are meeting. And now, analysts in New Delhi are saying that a partnership with Japan, India sees it not only as being limited to the field of defense, but it's a partnership that is going to go well beyond and has rather gone well beyond in the past few decades.
And the trial of Meta over alleged child harms from Instagram and Facebook began this week in Oakland, California, with opening statements from both sides taking place on Tuesday. 4 US states are seeking up to $1.4 trillion in damages, alleging the company knowingly designed its platforms to hook young users. Meta's chief executive Mark Zuckerberg is among the witnesses prosecutors plan to call during the 6-week trial. Ira Spitzer has more from San Francisco.
For Meta's part, its lawyers called the state's argument unsubstantiated and said that they were dealing with industry-wide challenges such as age verification, and that singling them out as being liable in this case was not fair, and they've repeatedly called the state's arguments overblown.
And finally this week, Moderna and Merck have announced the first ever positive phase 3 results for a personalised mRNA cancer vaccine in melanoma patients. It's a breakthrough that has sent both companies' share prices sharply higher. From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
Republicans back a plan for universal lawn care, and an RC car works up the courage to approach a group of girls. And now a recap of the week's news for those who like to waste their summers surfing the internet. Fall, the long-running series of shorter days and cooler nights, was canceled this week after nearly 3 billion seasons on Earth. The classic period of the year, which once occupied the coveted slot between summer and winter, will be replaced by new stifling humidity levels and near-constant sunshine. A shiny, bobbing object in the water is generating fascination among members of the fish community, who have described it as pleasingly wiggly and minnow-esque. Aquatic experts say that decisive action must be taken against the object very soon. In local news, just when 27-year-old Andrew Sheets didn't think his vacation could get any better, a rerun of Spin City came on. And in other headlines, a bee stuck between the screen and front door is going nuts. And a water skier lets go of the crossbar to greet those not currently water skiing.
This is the Onion News Network.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. It's talk radio you control. Give us a call. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight is Stu,
Angelo,
and Jay Noone.
We have a caller on the line, so we're going to go to the phones. We've got Tom in New Hampshire. Tom, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Well, I was invited up to Manchester to back couple of weeks ago to do a video at Manchester Public Television, up to 3 minutes, a campaign speech from my campaign for United States Senator, and that's on the Facebook page of Manchester Public Television. And they have me telling it like it is and educating the voters who don't fully understand how evil public school is and stuff like that. And so I wanted to bring that up. It's kind of hard to find my story. That the Laconia Daily Sun interviewed me a few days ago, and they ran the story, and now it's kind of getting buried as time goes on. That it's older and older news. But if you look in the Laconia Daily News and see news and then click local news, you'll find it in there. And of course, I'm putting all this stuff on my campaign website at tomalsear.us.
You're running for
United States Senator
against Sununu and
against all of them, Scott Brown and all of them. Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm getting my $100 worth out of that filing fee pretty well. I mean, I'm getting coverage that would cost a lot more if I probably wouldn't be able to afford that much coverage to educate the voters in Laconia and then multiply it perhaps over the internet. The only hope that the United States will ever become a free country, I'm putting down when I share this post. It's a Facebook post on the Manchester Public Television Services Facebook page. To tell people the only hope that the United States of America will ever be a free country is if you share this post and to educate more people, get money out of politics, because it doesn't cost anything for people to make the post go viral.
I mean, I really feel like we just need to kill the actual money they're using. You know, I think the solution to the world's biggest problem is quite literally silver bits. People using actually, and I want to throw cryptocurrency in there too, because it's really hard to do e-commerce with silver, but just not using the coin of the realm, the crown's script, is like how we can kill this beast. This beast quite literally enslaves us through the financial system, and the fact, and if the people could understand enough to just opt out, which is just stop using banks, stop using cards, stop using cash, and really push this parallel economy, practicing the crypto exchanging, and more importantly silver. Especially like one of the things that's going to kind of stop like Bitcoin from really working, I think, is if electricity rates get extremely high. And mining Bitcoin becomes so expensive just because electricity rates become high. Then people just aren't going to be doing the Bitcoin transactions. I don't know what that does for like Monero and Bitcoin Cash. I don't know how actually Monero really works. Stu might, but I like people using silver peer to peer and just and trading outside the coin of the realm. I really think that the keys to the kingdom is this fiat banking money, this Federal Reserve note. It's the two biggest problems we face in America, I believe, that are costing us a lot of money are fraudulent school district bonds and the Federal Reserve.
Not only those, but when you get all these people saying, oh, we support public school because every child somehow has a right to an education at somebody else's expense. But then when school taxes start going up, they tell Congress to add more U.S. Border Patrol goons to prevent more families from moving into the country, and they tell the selectmen to impose tougher zoning restrictions to prevent more families from moving into the town in order to control school taxes. Well, if families can't afford to educate their own children, how are they supposed to come up with $1 million for a great big house and a great big yard required by the zoning restrictions? Zoning is one of the kinds of what I call open corruption, like agricultural subsidies and stuff like that. It's vote for us and we'll keep the Negroes out of your town or out of your neighborhood by pricing them out of the housing market. It's open corruption. It's openly wicked. And so, I realize the Federal Reserve is abusing it. First of all, exploiting the U.S. dollar's position as the world's reserve currency. Most international trade between two different countries is priced in U.S. dollars, and they're using that as a way to make more money by printing money and devaluing the U.S. dollars that are in circulation all over the world. And so that's ripping people off. But you don't have time to explain this to people in 3 minutes or less. So I also explained, about opening the borders, because if somebody was born outside some lines on the map, what are they supposed to do? Marry your daughter? Stuff like that. We're all children of the same God. We don't need ICE goons kidnapping God's children off the street and forcing them onto aircraft bound for faraway lands. And this country got along just fine with no immigration restrictions before the blatantly racist Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. immigration restrictions are worldwide a major attack on economic liberty and personal liberty as well, the right to life. Look at the Holocaust, when the passengers on the SS St. Louis were turned away and they were later murdered at Auschwitz, and all the millions of people who would have escaped that way. At the Evian conference in July of 1938, Adolf Hitler told representatives, I believe it was 38 different countries, we on our part are willing to put these criminals at the disposal of these countries for all I care, even on luxury ships. He didn't care. He put the blame on those other countries. And the only country that added any to its quota that they would accept was the Dominican Republic. So, that's a major cause of poverty is the immigration restrictions. And the way to remove these problems is to get rid of the corruptions in government. But the government doesn't want people to realize that the reason people are poor in Africa is because the governments are so corrupt. Because then they'll start saying, hey, zoning restrictions in the United States cause housing shortages, and housing shortages drive up rents. And that's why we're struggling and living on credit cards and maxed out and trying to pay the minimum on those, and then struggling to pay for insulin, which is the cost of which is inflated by the federal government. If you were to buy insulin in some other country where it's a lot less expensive, and then charter a plane and fly it to Nashua Airport in New Hampshire, where there isn't customs, and unload it there and bring it to the Londonderry flea market to sell it to people for a lot less than what they're paying at the pharmacy, you would be arrested by cops.
That's right.
People need to understand that cops are the root of all evil.
Well, cops are I would say they're the fruits of the evil. The root of the evil, I believe, is the money printers and the money changers. And I want to let you know, Tom, I agree with you on this borders thing to an extent. I don't like ICE going up and rounding up people, but I believe that this scenario was purposely created with the welfare programs and all the Soros funded and basically pedivore
unnatural immigration.
Yeah, unnatural immigration. These guys were pushed here. They were incentivized to come here. They were helped to come here. They were trucked all the way up to the borders. Essentially, they're put on planes and then they're sent here. And then there's agendas. I know a border patrol guy, and he works in the airport in not Miami, somewhere in Florida. I forget which airport. But I said to him a couple of years ago, I'm like, hey, is it true if somebody shows up from say Guatemala and says I'm seeking asylum, that they get cash and an EBT card and basically all this stuff? And he goes, yes, that is absolutely true. Yet we have to do it. I disagree with it. I don't like it. Now, when you have so this is actually become an invasion. In places you go to Cape Cod, Massachusetts, where I used to go deliver loads of hay every week to Cape Cod, Massachusetts for years when I was in the hay business, and towns down there are just flooded with Somalians, and they're wreaking havoc. And then you have all these problems in Europe with the rape gangs, and the thing is you can't have open borders if you're going to have a welfare system. The welfare system is essentially the problem with this, and even the welfare system has existed for a lot of years, but then when you have the unnatural immigration, as Stu mentioned, where you have Soros-funded organizations literally trucking these guys to the border, millions of them to the border, and getting them to airports and on planes for asylum, and then of course you have the American warlords, who are the purpose of the military, as far as I'm concerned, is to either flood Europe and America with opiates, and to keep the U.S. dollar as the world currency, because as soon as you try to become independent from the U.S. dollar, you become a terrorist nation if you're not going to be part of the the central banking cartel, the Rothschild banks, or whatever you want to call them. So yeah, this, it all comes back to the money printers. The money printers, the people who print the money, buy all the politicians, and they fund the pensions of all the politicians and all these people doing bad things. And we do have the power to stop this by literally just divesting in dollars and stop using them. And we've been doing that here in New Hampshire pretty good. I think when the fiat dollar collapses, I think when things go really awry, I'm pretty convinced that we're going to have some kind of Carrington-type event with the solar flares. In the next few years, it would wipe out a lot of this, digital stuff, which I think is going to just be, I'm calling it like a cleansing, of the earth. And, people who are able to transact and have been practicing trading, silver bits for eggs and stuff, and with other locals. And that's also a good way to get to know people in your community. When you do these in-person silver trading and bartering, they're going to be okay. But yeah, definitely we have lots of problems, and the Federal Reserve is the root of all this evil, and essentially, not all cops are bad. I can tell you, there's really good cops in Henniker, New Hampshire. There's really good cops in rural upstate New York. There's really good cops, in Western Massachusetts.
I'm skeptical.
But no, I've met lots of them.
Yeah, well, they haven't turned into dirtbags that work in their department, so I'd still call them bastards.
They get killed when they do that.
Well,
I know
quit their job.
They are members of an organized force that is on a mission to intimidate everybody into obeying a multitude of blatantly unjust laws.
That is
Whether
true.
They actually commit those or not, just like when going back to 26 December of 1776, when George Washington's army attacked the Hessian garrison at Trenton. He knew, of course, that these guys were draftees. They figured that Washington ain't going to come out in weather like this, not on Christmas night. No, he ain't going to come out there. And so that's, of course, gave them the advantage of surprise. But they are, even though they're sleeping, they are still enemy combatants, and they were all captured along with 6 nice cannons. Moving back to fast forwarding to a few months ago, thousands of Venezuelans desperately looking for jobs. Some of them walked all the way through Central America and hiked through Mexico or hitchhiked through Mexico to get to the United States because they desperately wanted to live in the United States. The one guy who desperately did not want to move to the United States, what do? They send the armed forces there to extract him out of his bunker and in his compound and put him on an aircraft and force him to the United States and lock him in a jail. The president of Venezuela, when they kidnapped him. So what they got to do, my position is, given the way things happen to be right now, the most practical way of handling the immigration is you run a fingerprint check at the port of entry, so we know who they are. Are there any warrants out for them? Interpol, FBI, local misdemeanor warrants out for the person, and if not, then take their picture and issue them a work permit. That's a government-issued photo ID card and the Social Security number on it. And now they can go and look for a job because now it's not illegal for employers to hire them, and now they can cash their paycheck with that government-issued photo ID. But the reason why a lot of American bureaucrats hate that idea is that it proves that you don't need welfare. If those people can survive without it, then how come all these other families cannot survive without it? And part of it, disabled people, yeah, but
and most of the disabled people are faking it. They really are. I know so many people on disability because it's literally their career choice.
Yeah, well, I don't know anybody in that category, but there probably are. It's not the government's job to take care of people who are disabled. It's the job of private NGOs, how's that, non-governmental organizations, and individual people to take care of their the ones that happen to be disabled. But other than that, people need to be able to find a job. But when you get, first of all, somebody wants to build a factory and put 1,000 people to work, the neighbors stampede to town hall. We don't want that in our neighborhood. There'll be traffic on our street, and somebody has to tell all those fat, ugly old ladies, guess what? It's a public way. And also plenty of jobs in demolition and construction when you abolish the zoning restrictions. And even if you don't want a job like that, it's drawing other people towards those sectors, and therefore they're more likely to be finding a job, and you'll have less competition for jobs in other sectors like retail or fishing.
Tom, thank you for running for Senate and making people aware of what's going on and these issues.
Yep.
I thank you for that.
Keep spreading the good word. And thanks for the call tonight. We've got another caller on the line, so we're going to go to Tim in Florida. Tim, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Thank you. I just want to posit the idea that the mass migration crisis that is being created, I'll say at least partially artificially, part of the reason is to evoke the reaction of a quote-unquote fingerprinting system, and it's sorry about the dogs in the background, but yeah, basically the checkpoint system is we're all going to be in that database. It's the same database that they were trying to create under the other administration.
Yeah, that was one of the things I figured that I predicted Trump would get done before his 4 years is up, is that he'll have us all on a very trackable database.
Hence data centers
digital
and
ID,
flock
all that
cameras.
stuff. Yep.
And then I also think that this was another setup with like all the Somalis, the daycares and everything, which there's tens of thousands of these in Massachusetts, it turns out, kind of like Minnesota. It was just a convenient distraction for like when something else, pops up like, oh, Epstein files. Now we need to, run with this other psyop. So it's all stuff that's probably true, but let's like throw it out here. This is happening. And I'm kind of convinced that all of this ICE detaining, a bunch of, so-called illegals is practice for when it comes time, when the draft riots happen, when, the American politicians are ordered to like, send a whole bunch of American, ordered by Israel essentially, or Netanyahu or the Zionists to go, bomb Iran and send a bunch of soldiers into Iran.
Yeah, and a lot of the companies, not all of which are Israeli, so some did start in the United States, and then in some cases you have like Unit 8200 members or members of other, or in some cases Mossad, et cetera, and then they would create a company, in some cases an Israeli company, in some cases an American company. If it was an Israeli company, then in many cases it would get bought by an American company. But going back to Pegasus, if you remember that, and then more recently, there's all these companies, I can't even remember them all. But, from the flock cameras, I'm not saying it's just Israel, is the problem. It's the total information awareness that's the problem, and I think it's too late.
Well, I believe in a good things coming.
Yeah, I hope good things are coming, but I am more inclined to agree with the caller on this one. I don't know. It's like they are building the net, or the net has been built, so they're just like you were saying, it's like the artificial mass migration, artificial I guess artificially created, but the distress, the chaos is real, right? And if you make the things chaotic and dangerous enough, people will beg for you to do this system. They'll beg for this implementation.
Sure.
If it gets too hard to do your day-to-day like activities because it's dangerous or dirty, or like they're just trying to break the back of the regular
standard Hegelian dialectic.
And especially the chronically afeared, who have been programmed for 2 decades now by the internet devices to be chronically afraid.
Mm-hmm. If those people went outside, they might discover there's not so much to be afraid of.
That fear goes, to the most basic. If we're talking about serious matters, but this is a serious matter too. Electric tricycles have come into focus by local governments and even state governments, national governments in some cases. And I don't. Some guy in Italy. I don't think he was a mayor of someplace in Italy. They were having a city council meeting about whether or not they should ban e-trikes, and they hadn't come to a conclusion. The guy walks out, he gets hit by an e-trike.
Interesting. We had a story about e-bikes a couple weeks ago causing terror in California. Give us a call. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. We've got one segment to go, and we'd like to hear what you have to say. This is Free Talk Live.
The Shire Free Church offers a sanctuary to those seeking an escape from state churches.
The Shire Free Church is an interfaith, diverse group of people that may not share identical theological beliefs.
As a member in or minister of the Shire Free Church, you are a sovereign individual and may be the faith of your choice.
We don't claim to have all of the answers.
We are open to all peaceful people.
We want to learn from each other.
What unifies the Shire Free Church and its diverse members is peace,
love,
and liberty. There are many paths to God, one for every individual.
The Shire Free Church does not define a specific path beyond these parameters that must be your foundation.
Peace as your way.
Love as your guide.
And liberty as your light.
Learn more at church.shiresociety.com.
That's church.shiresociety.com.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. US President Donald Trump confirmed this week that he plans to meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un this year, with a possible summit on the sidelines of the APEC gathering in November. Pyongyang has so far poured cold water on the prospect of talks, with Kim Jong-un's sister Kim Yo-jong saying she is not aware of any communication between the two nations. President Trump's confirmation comes as he faces criticism over his decision to cut short joint military drills with South Korea. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
To get a denuclearization deal done with North Korea would be a huge foreign policy win, a huge win for any president at any point in their presidency. But Donald Trump is currently a president who looks like a president who needs a foreign policy win. His Gaza peace deal was signed and delivered last year, but it's limping along. It hasn't really come to fruition.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have revealed they plan to move back to Britain later this month, ending more than 6 years of self-imposed exile from the United Kingdom. The couple's children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, have been enrolled at British schools ahead of the new term in September, and the family will live at a private residence outside London. King Charles is said to welcome the chance to see more of his son's family, though the couple will not return as working members of the royal family. Ollie Barrett reports from London.
This was a surprise even to the King, as far as we understand it, who we believe was told about this move on Sunday. It doesn't mean that Harry or Meghan are likely to resume their roles as part of the working royal family, but we do understand from royal sources that King Charles welcomes the opportunity to see more of Harry and Meghan.
China this week publicly rejected Washington's sanctions campaign against Iran, ordering Chinese companies not to comply with US measures targeting 5 refineries accused of buying Iranian oil. Donald Trump launched what he called an unprecedented economic operation against Tehran, warning that any country offering Iran a lifeline would face severe financial retaliation. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has called on American allies to choose sides, describing the plan as the toughest sanctions in history. Jagruti Dave reports from Washington.
What we do know is that the president is calling it an economic D-Day and is saying that there will be tremendous economic consequences for any countries that effectively do business with Iran. The language in that social media post that Donald Trump issued suggests that there would be secondary sanctions on countries that buy Iranian oil.
And finally this week, Moderna and Merck have announced the first ever positive Phase 3 results for a personalised mRNA cancer vaccine in melanoma patients. It's a breakthrough that has sent both companies' share prices sharply higher. From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. It's talk radio you control. If you'd like to get on with us in this final segment of the program, you can do so by calling 603-283-6160. You can talk about pretty much whatever you'd like. In the studio tonight, it's Stu,
Angelo,
and Jay Noone.
I have a lack of colors right now and a short story that I'd like to read. It comes from the AP. Oh, geez, this actually goes on for a while, but it gets to the gist pretty quick. So this is, as I said, from the AP, not such a reputable news source, but Nebraska's largest school district asks police to stop using electric shock gloves on students. Omaha police agreed this week to stop carrying gloves that can deliver electric shocks to students in the halls of Nebraska's largest public school district. The decision affecting most Omaha middle and high schools came after the Associated Press first revealed Immigration and Customs Enforcement's plan to give officers the gloves, which are known as gloves, GLOVE, or generated low-output voltage emitters. The devices have also been used in recent years by some jails. Omaha Superintendent Matthew Ray requested that police working in the schools, known as school resource officers, stop using the gloves. Omaha police agreed.
So wait, were they using the gloves on teenagers before this?
Sounds like it. However, the suburban Bellevue Police Department that patrols 2 Omaha schools and the large Bellevue district said its officers will continue carrying the gloves. 3 other large school districts in the metro area that have Omaha school resource officers assigned to their buildings have not taken action to stop police from using the devices.
I wonder why government-subsidized day prisons need prison guards or cops.
With electric gloves?
They're just cops in general.
Oh, yeah. And metal detectors and, man, these places.
Another reason not to send your kids to public school.
Yeah, I mean, they call it the school to prison pipeline, but now the schools just look like the prison, so what's the difference?
And they've kind of looked like the prisons right along.
Yeah.
Well, actually, when I was a real little kid, the grammar school I went to didn't look like a prison, but the thing was built in 1871 or something.
The AP left messages seeking comment Thursday from the Millard, Elkhorn, and West Side districts that are also patrolled by Omaha officers. Bellevue Schools spokeswoman Amanda Oliver said the district has a great relationship with Bellevue police and doesn't see a need to alter anything.
Wait, so the school district was like, no, don't, we need the taser gloves.
Uh-huh.
It really helps, man.
Yeah.
I bet you the kids pay attention real quick. I mean, shock collars work amazing on dogs, and these kids I hope they're smarter than dogs.
Well, I mean, they're in public school. They might not be.
No, that's true.
In Omaha, I don't know directly how great the education is in Omaha, but I haven't heard a lot of great minds coming out of there.
There's a lot of chemicals in Omaha, I can tell you that. It's all surrounded by government-subsidized crop production. Omaha, Nebraska is just all surrounded by cornfields with all the poisons put on them.
We've got a great communication and dialogue that we have with them consistently. And so for us right now, no changes are being made, Oliver said. Ray said in a school board meeting Monday in a letter to the public schools community that he'd only learned about the gloves the previous week. But local television station KETV found emails from 2023 when Omaha police notified the districts that the department planned to equip officers with the gloves, and an official with the Omaha district said they were already familiar with them because Bellevue police had them at 2 Omaha schools. Students in all the Omaha area districts have gone back to class over the past 2 weeks. The Omaha Police Department held a news conference last week in which an officer demonstrated the gloves to show how they can help an officer quickly get control of someone who is refusing commands. Omaha police used the gloves twice during the 2025-2026 school year, and Bellevue police have also used them twice in previous years. So yeah, to answer your question, it sounds like they used them twice. And they're gearing up for another year of this.
I don't know And it would be great if none of this was happening, right? Like no government prison system, schools, and all of that. But like, I'd rather have like the school cop have shot gloves than like a gun, to where you could like potentially shoot a kid.
Probably less lethal than a taser too.
Yeah, that's
taser can really hurt you.
That's what I'm saying. Is like, I'd rather, like, if this is happening, I'd rather just have them have the taser gloves instead of like a gun, to where they're potentially murder a kid instead of shock him with the gloves, if that makes sense. Like, they're already at the school. I can't get them away from the school. I don't agree with it, but I'd rather have them have like the shot glove instead of a gun or a taser.
And if they're if they're going to public school, they're like lowest common denominator kids. Obviously nowadays, either their parents don't care or they're too, the parents. I mean, I don't know why people are sending their kids to public school. I really don't get it.
It's intergenerational systematic child abuse that,
sure.
One person learned it from their parents and, I turned out fine. No, you didn't. You turned out messed up, and now you're sending your kid to the place that messed you up.
Yeah, so like it's I'm friends with some people who got teenagers in school, but they're like, it's a small, if they were like, oh, if we lived in Manchester, my kids wouldn't be going to public school, but these guys live like in Ware, Henniker, New Hampshire, where it's pretty little.
15 kids a class kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I went to school in Cache County, Utah, and that was just as abusive as it was in Salt Lake.
Sure, I went to, I was in a small school also until high school, then the school was kind of big. And basically, the only violence I really ever actually received was in school. Quite literally, and it wasn't from teachers, it was from other kids. Kids trying to bully. We got in a lot of fights in high school, which was kind of handy. I'm pretty confident about my fighting ability because I got some experience as a kid, and certainly learned how to fight, and also helped that I got some martial arts training, which sort of stop the bullies. Once you start beating them up,
well,
and when they come after you,
young boys, if they get into a group, even if it wasn't in a school building and they were all messing around in a field and something got heated, they'd still fight each other.
We actually had a fight club when I was a kid, and it was in the neighborhood, and it was in our friends. The guys lived next door, and the only thing was you couldn't punch in the face. That was like the only rule.
So it was body boxing.
Yeah, basically it was body boxing and like slamming. We were we didn't really know what we were doing. We were just.
Yeah,
it and
almost like a proto MMA with no face shots. But we weren't
mad at each other doing this fighting.
Yeah.
We were basically like sparring with each other, and we were all friends. And one thing we did learn is we learned how tough some kids were and how not tough some kids were. That was like really, wow, you're a big dude and you're a wimp, for example, or you're a little guy and man, you are tough.
Yeah, sometimes it's like that.
Yeah, it is like that.
We've got callers on the line, though, so we're going to go to the phones. This is an unscreened caller. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
I'm unscreened, and we don't have any Somalians down here. I don't know where there's one of them. I know, Jay, you have friends who are probably involved with the feeding of people, the farmers markets and whatnot. So I'm down on Cape Cod. This is Lumpy. And I love you guys. And thanks.
Love you too, Lumpy.
Thanks, brother. So I have not seen one Somalian. I know you have some friends down here that may run some of the food kitchens, and there's possibility that's where I would guess if they were around, that's where they'd be. I have not seen one. I'm out working all over the place. I haven't seen one. I'm in every town, not one. I don't know what this is supposed to be. It's probably somebody pulling your leg.
Well, actually, they corrected me. It was a Jamaicans gunfighting in Chatham, New Hampshire, and it was 2 years ago.
Chatham, New Hampshire.
I'm sorry, Chatham, Mass, not New Hampshire. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Chatham, Mass.
Something interesting happened besides fog and miserable people in Chatham. So yeah, great.
Yeah, but there was Jamaicans gunfighting, and so and yes, I did say Somalians. I actually should have said Jamaicans, but
that's all right. I know you corrected it. That's good.
But one of the things I got to say that there is a lot of on Cape Cod is Brazilians, and
Yeah.
but all the Brazilians that I've like interacted with, they were like hardworking. They were, doing jobs. They were pretty valuable. My good friend, she has a landscaping design company, and she's got a bunch of Brazilian guys that work with her, and man, they do a good job. And another thing is,
They are very efficient. They will steal anything that's not bolted down. But other than that, best work ethic that you can imagine. They're fantastic.
And I've actually been dirt bike riding here in New Hampshire with some Brazilians. They come up from Massachusetts. They love the Free State Project and all that stuff. And, it's a 68-year-old grandpa. It's a 40-some-odd-year-old dad and a 14-year-old grandson. And I ran into them about 3 or 4 times now. They're electricians, actually, from Massachusetts. And, yeah, they seem like pretty decent, wholesome people, those guys. They're investing in their kids, and they're doing stuff, and they like freedom. But, I've always liked the Brazilians.
It's funny down here. Yeah, I get along great. I've had an assistant years ago that was Brazilian. She was great. I mean, everybody I work with, all the contractors that are Brazilian, they got great reputations down here. They do great work. And the Jamaicans down here, I don't know about any gun shooting down here. I would love to see guns. This is Massachusetts. You can't even look at a gun without being called a terrorist down here. And there's not a good cop. However, every time I do see a Jamaican, they reek of weed, and I always end up giving them a big hug and saying, thanks for stinking of weed, because that's a wonderful smell. Love you guys. I'm going to let you go. Thank you. I love you guys.
Love you too. Thanks for the call tonight, Lumpy. Also on the phone, go to the next caller here. We've got David in New Mexico. David, what's on your mind?
Yo, a couple things. But first of all, Jay, you love them Brazilians. You talking about the wax or the butt lift? Which one? Or both, maybe?
I don't really know too many I haven't dealt with too many Brazilian women. I mean, the ones I saw look pretty good. But
you got to be Brazilian woman to get the Brazilian bikini wax.
I'm talking about the Brazilian men that are like doing real actual work. Getting things done, roofing houses.
That's boring, man. We don't want to talk about. We want to talk about the butt lift and the Brazilian bikini wax, man. That's where it's at.
Yeah, I don't really have any experience with that stuff.
Well, I know. I can tell. Yeah.
Have you had your butt lifted, David?
Yeah. No, I don't need it, man. I got the natural butt lift. Did
you get a wax?
Are you gay?
No.
No. Oh, okay. Just checking. I want to make sure. Yeah, I don't want to talk about my butt with gay dudes. So if you're straight, though, I'll talk about my butt. What do you want to know about my butt?
I'm just wondering why you're so interested in talking about Brazilian butt lifts and waxing.
I'm not. Jay's the one that brought it up. Don't blame me, man. Jay said he loves Brazilian.
I don't think he said anything about butts or wax.
I didn't know if you were talking about the wax or the butt lift.
I don't think he said anything about either.
Well, I heard the butt lifts. I heard the butt lifts can they go rancid and they'll stink if they don't do them right. Like if you get a cheap one.
Wait a minute, what is this?
Like the Brazilian butt lifts.
What is it?
What is a Brazilian butt lift? First off, I don't even know what that is.
It's like they move fat around from a different part of your body to your butt to make it bigger.
Oh,
so
it's like a women's it's like plastic surgery. Yeah, and it'll go necrotic and stink.
Oh, nasty.
And they do, it's already nasty down there on a lot of them. Then they do that, it gets even worse. But
butts are kind of gross, anyways. So
they also
so add necrotic fat to the smell of regular butt.
Fat. Speaking of necrotic fat, so anyway, you were having a debate with Skeeter earlier, and you guys are all having an unnecessary argument, I think, because your debate on the part I caught was about using silver versus using money that doesn't appreciate. You remember that argument?
Yeah.
Okay, so how come nobody brings up the fact that you can have the best of both worlds? That you can, and maybe you did, because I had to skip through a bit of it. I didn't get to listen to the whole thing. That you can, the people that you got to deal with in fiat. So you keep enough fiat on hand, or you go buy enough fiat to deal with them. And when you get paid in fiat, those are the people you deal with. Maybe you're getting paid in fiat because that person doesn't pay you in something other than fiat. and you already have more fiat on hand than you need to pay the people that you need to pay in fiat. So you take the fiat that you just got paid and you go buy something non-fiat with it. And you only keep on hand the fiat you need to pay the people who won't take anything other than fiat. So what about that?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, that's kind of how
ultimately that's the best money is a freedom to choose.
Well, that's what the ultra rich do already, right? Like none of their they put all their money straight into assets and only keep liquid cash on hand just to pay the people off they need to pay off.
Yeah, they're saving in things like house deeds.
Yeah, exactly. They already do that.
Yeah.
I guess silver would just be another mode of investment.
So how come you don't talk about that?
Oh, because one thing runs over another with that guy. It's hard to get anything edgewise, and really, I'm just looking forward to the end of his call every time he does.
And I do advocate people just turn their fiat into silver, all that they can. I mean, I think it's nuts that people got like all this like savings in a bank vault, or not even in a bank that you can't access.
Turn it into a bunch of different stuff. Get a little bit of gold. Get a lot of silver. Get some crypto.
Buy some copper.
Copper's great. I love my 81 and older pennies. I got a whole big old jug of them.
At local silver mint, they sell copper at their store in Ware, New Hampshire, and I buy copper all the time because it's like they sell it for like $1 over spot.
Copper's going
and I
up
buy
too.
a mason jar, a 1-quart mason jar of ground copper wire, weighs like 10 pounds. It's amazing how heavy copper is.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually did a whole bunch of electroculture in my garden this year. You guys should check out electroculture, where I've used copper wire and I make these like little curly antenna things, and you point the end of it north. And my blueberries got so huge that I had to prop them up because they were like the branches were falling on the ground. It was crazy.
Got huge.
My blueberries.
How about your twig?
The twig wasn't big enough to support all the blueberries. That's why I had to I had to prop it up because the fruit grew so well.
This is going from bad to worse, Jay. Speaking of bad to worse, Stu, you there, Stu?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't hang up on me already? Oh, wait a minute. That wasn't the problem last week. You didn't hang up. You didn't even give yourself a chance to hang up on me. You left me on hold for a whole damn segment, half hour. What's up with that, dude?
I wasn't here last week. I was at a reggae festival.
The last time that you were on, and I called in, and I mean, we don't need to play back the recording of your show that's right here on my YouTube channel. But you at the end of your show, you said to Mark and everybody, you said, well, we had some callers on the line, but it was more interesting what we were talking about, so we just let them callers die on hold.
I do remember that.
Yeah, now you do.
Sorry, man, you got to be more interesting.
But well, you know what? Some people, actually, the operative thing here is not what is interesting. The operative thing is respect and dignity, respect for other people's time and effort and energy. And when you
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah, when people put an effort into showing up and you just flush them down the toilet, that ain't cool.
Well, it goes both ways.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. You got to respect my time too, David.
How am I not respecting your time? I have zero control over what you do with your time, including right now.
Now, if you're going to bore me, then I'm not going to give you my time. It's pretty simple.
Well, I didn't even get it. You're kind of dodging here. I shouldn't even play along with this argument. It's not cool if you got people on hold for a half hour and you don't answer their call and you just hang up on them after they put forth the effort. Not cool. So we don't have to talk about it anymore. I just needed to tell you that.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry.
No big deal. We've already moved on. So back to money. Talk about money, Jay. What else should I know about money?
That it should be something real, I think. I really, I'm very bullish on precious metals because, you can trade with it and it's something that's consumed. I do like crypto a little bit because of it's fungible. You can, buy things on the internet with it. It is getting more popular. Like, you can use these things to buy like Amazon cards. It's pretty hard to buy Amazon cards, for example, with silver. But here in New Hampshire.
Wait a minute, hold it. You got a good point there. Hold on that one. So let's explore that a second. So what about? I swear there's companies out there like that the Goldbacks people or somebody has got actual metal in a vault, and they issue a card, and you have an account with them, and everything that's on your card is backed up by the metal that you own that's in their vault. And what about that?
It's probably know your customer. I'm not interested in, dealing with those type of things. And I mean, depends how much you're going to trust them to have your gold there. And are they charging you to hold your gold in that vault? That's one of the things I don't like about those deals.
Well, I thought about, here's another angle. How about, if you are into the metal, but it's not convenient to buy in this modern age, like online or over the telephone or whatever. So you got your metal, and then when you like I said, how much money do I need in order to buy with this kind of money? Okay, and I need to buy something over the internet, with a card number. So I go to a local silver mint, and I sell some of my metal, and they give me fiat, and I go to Walmart and buy $500 gift card or 5 of them if I need $2,500. And then I can pay over the telephone or the internet with those cards that I bought from Walmart, that I bought with the money that was the fiat that was given to me by the local silver mint for my real money, my real metal that I gave them.
People do that every day.
Okay, well, how come you didn't say that then?
I didn't get to it, but I've done that myself. I've went and sold silver at local silver mint, and went into Dollar General and bought some Amazon cards to get some things.
That's one way. Are there other ways to skin that cat?
Sure. I mean, you can. So one of the things I was doing in the past, I don't really do it much anymore because everybody just pays me silver anyways. But not everybody, but a lot of times I get paid in silver. Is I would give sort of a discount for crypto and silver. Like 10 years ago when I first moved here, I would give a pretty steep discount for my services for if they paid me in crypto or silver, just, to exercise that system. And that worked really well. In fact, I had a Craigslist ad. I was selling piglets. It was $150 a piglet if you paid in Federal Reserve notes or cash. And it was $100 a piglet if you paid in Bitcoin, bullion, or bullets. And I got traded Bitcoin, bullion, and bullets. I actually got little gram bars. I got half gram bars of gold for piglets in the spring of 2020, which was pretty cool.
Well, that's cool. Now, that brings up something else. The value of piglets, $150 a piglet. And what kind of weight are we talking about?
These ones were like probably anywhere from 25 to 30 pounds, 25 to 35 pounds. Some of them, it took me a while to get a lot of them. I did this over a course of a few months, sell piglets, for example. So some of them were like 55 and 60 pounds by the time I got them sold.
What do they usually finish at? Or that breed of pig you were saying?
The slot, Tyson would, they don't want them any bigger than 280 pounds hanging weight, which would be about 330 pounds live weight, for example. But like the last couple of pigs that we did, I raised them to be about 9-10 months old, and they were like 300 pounds live weight.
Thanks for the call tonight, David. This time I answered your call and let you speak to the end of the show. So there will be another one tomorrow night. David can call in. So can you.
And if you want to check me out, go to jnoone.com.
Also check out localsilvermint.com and get some silver bits. Thanks for listening. This has been Free Talk Live. Peace.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing. To be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being